home for the Sacramento Kings.
It's Sactown Sports.
Sactown Sports.
Headlines.
It's Simone Rickford with your Sactown Sports headlines. Sacramento Kings went toe-to-toe against the formidable Bucks in Milwaukee last night, and despite the palpable playoff atmosphere in Golden One Center, they ultimately fell short.
The final score is 133-124.
Even with all-star efforts from big man DeMontis Sabonis, who ate his 10th triple-double of the season, and De'Aaron Fox swiftly laying up 35, the Bucks' elite closing efforts proved too much for Sacramento's defense, and by the fourth quarter, tempers flared.
Now, suddenly we've got Trey Lyles and Brook Lopez, and we've got a melee.
Sacramento will have another chance to slide into the win column when the Kings open up a 4-game roadies, squaring off with the Chicago Bulls at United Center tomorrow night. And you, of course, can enjoy all of your Beam Team coverage right here on Sactown Sports immediately following Cattles and Ramie. As Sacramento's new home for all things 49ers, we have to break you off with the latest free agency rumors, signings, trades, and cuts around the NFL. Day or night, only SactownSports.com and our Sactown Sports app will keep you laced up with who's in and who's out. I'm Simone. Those are your Sactown Sports headlines. Welcome back in to Cattles and Ramie.
Not the boring, generic milquetoast stuff coming from the network in Connecticut.
I describe him as the best, obviously.
Cattles.
He throws it out there. Speaks his mind. That's cool.
And Ramie.
He's supposed to make people laugh. He's just an expert at it.
Cattles and Ramie.
Live and local in the afternoon.
Sactown Sports.
Yeah. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining us as always. It is much appreciated. Ramie, how you feeling?
Good. Chilling. Doing a radio show?
Myself and my truck had a fist fight against these wind gusts on the way in. That was fun. Heavyweight fight like last night between the Bucks and the Kings. It was Cattles versus the wind on the way here.
Swaying back and forth.
My goodness, it was no joke.
It's windy out there.
It was absolutely no joke.
I gave this PSA last time we had these winds come through. Try not to park next to a tree if you can out there in Sacramento.
Yes.
If you can. I know it's hard. City parking is hard. You take what you can get, but try not to park next to a tree.
Stay away anything that might collapse.
Just light pole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Try to play it safe. That's my my suggestion and advice for the day as well for all of those. All right. Well, last night, Ramie, we talked about this during the show. Last night was a benchmark game to me against the Bucks. This is a legitimate contender. I've said this for weeks. I've stood by this. Now I think it's approaching months. I think Milwaukee's the best team in basketball. I was saying that when Milwaukee wasn't the first seed, the top seed in the Eastern Conference. I just think they're the best team in the NBA. And what we saw last night was a Kings team that was able and capable of going toe-to-toe with the best team in the NBA for 45 minutes.
Now, hold on. You said after 20 games, you were out of the moral victory game.
Right.
That there were no more moral victories.
No.
Are we?
I have a new term. I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
I know how to describe last night's loss.
Okay. All right.
But they went toe-to-toe for 45 minutes against the best team in the NBA. Here was Trey Lyles in the postgame talking about that.
Yeah, it just shows, I think we've shown all year long that we're going to fight until the end, no matter what. We played them really well. They're a championship-level team, so kudos to them. They made big shots down the stretch, and we weren't able to execute on some defensive plays and offensive plays. But, it just goes to show that we're going to continue to fight all the way down to the buzzer.
We are going to continue to fight all the way down to the buzzer. Here was DeMontis Sabonis on the game last night.
We've been playing great basketball after the All-Star break, and to see that guys are still fired up, even though that game was lost at that moment, guys want to compete, guys want to come out, and play to win, so that's good. We got to keep all that energy and increase it for the final stretch.
Ramie, your thoughts on the game?
That was an awesome game, man.
Yeah.
I was in the building at Golden One Center, and that was just an awesome game and an awesome environment. And both teams put on an absolute show. And if you weren't sure, yesterday we talked about, are they on the brink of contention? If you weren't sure yesterday when we had that conversation, now are they in a class with the Bucks? No, they're not. And the reasons why they're not in a class with the Bucks were on display last night and were the difference in that game. But to even come out there and first of all throw the first punch and a pretty heavy punch it was, being up by as many as 15 points in the second quarter, showing no intimidation, no backing down, no standing down to the Bucks, who, as you say, Nick, are the best team in the NBA. I think a lot of people would agree with you. They have a 2-time MVP championship under their belt. The Bucks, just like they said, remember after that Clippers game, and I'm paraphrasing, but they said basically Malik Monk to hell with everybody and all these superstars. Whoa, lights just went out in here.
Yes, they did. We are in the pitch dark, ladies and gentlemen.
They said, bring them on. Whoever it is, bring them on. And they showed that last night, Nick. They went to the center of the ring and threw the first punch in what was a heavyweight fight. And right down to the end, they didn't back down, not from the team on the other side and the challenge that they presented, from the challenge of going up against a team like that, the pressure that comes with that, knowing Kings fans and other people around the NBA are looking at this as kind of a measuring stick and, hey, what can you do? I was really, really pleased with the way that the Kings came out and performed last night from their own standpoint. I don't know how you can take much issue. Now we nitpick things. It's what we do. It's why we're on the air 2 to 6 weekdays on Sactown Sports.
Indeed.
But all in all, I thought they came out and put on a really good showing in what was a measuring stick game.
So there are no moral victories. And I said that, as you mentioned, after 20 games, you're a quarter of the way into the season, no moral victories. But you know what it was last night?
How's he going to twist this?
It's not a moral victory. It's a quality loss.
Oh, stop it.
It's a quality loss.
Stop it.
It's not a moral victory. It's a quality loss. It's not a victory, but it's a quality loss. You know, when you show that you can physically hang, because what I mean by quality loss is when you have certain losses throughout your season and learn from them, then I do think that's important. That's a step in the right direction. That is a step. That is progress. And last night, first and foremost, what the Kings showed was that they can be physical. And that's been a question. We have questioned their physicality. Coach Brown questioned their physicality after that Knicks game on TNT last week. I go back to Friday when we had the conversation about what Brown said, and I thought it was because Brown knew exactly what was coming up. He knew what the schedule was. He knew Phoenix was on Saturday night in Phoenix, and he knew that you'd be playing a very physical, big, long Milwaukee team. And so I was very impressed last night with the Kings' ability to hang with the Bucks on the physical level. I did not anticipate that, honestly. I thought the Bucks would have the physical advantage, and I thought, when you look at things like the glass, the Kings had 2 more rebounds than the Bucks did last night. You out-rebounded the best rebounding team in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
You out-rebounded one of the most physical teams in the NBA. You out-rebounded one of the biggest teams in the NBA. That is a stark contrast, Ramie, to what we saw on Thursday night against the Knicks when you were giving up 23 offensive rebounds.
How do we decipher between moral victory and, what did you say, good loss?
Quality.
Quality loss?
Yes.
How do we decipher between those two? That's just your way of not backtracking on the no more moral victories.
It's a quality loss.
Okay. And if that's how you want to term it, I'm okay with that. And I would agree. It was a quality loss, man. Now, the bench, kind of quiet in this one, but then again, so was Milwaukee's bench in this one. And you're right, Nick, when you look at the physicality of this game, the Kings were there for it right down to the end, including maybe things getting a little bit too physical. I know we're going to talk about that a little later in the show, but literally everything about this game, other than the final score, would make me happy as a Kings fan. If I'm watching it last night, everything other than the final score about that game last night makes me happy and leaves me walking away from that game with a pretty good feeling about my basketball team in the big picture.
Here's what we also learned about this team. And I don't know if you could even say that we learned it, but it was really nice to see. This, as you mentioned, Ramie, to you, was up until the point, the biggest game of the year, the biggest challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw Fox and Domas in the biggest game of the year, biggest challenge against a physical team. We saw them level up in the moment. Domas, we'll talk more about him later on in the show. He was freaking terrific. He was unbelievable.
You could tell he wanted the challenge. He was up for the challenge and he wanted it.
I tweeted, I think it was at halftime or late in the second quarter, that up until that point in the game, I thought that it was not only brilliant basketball from DeMontis, but I thought it was flawless basketball from DeMontis. I could not pick out a single mistake he made in the first half. He had no turnovers, no fouls. He dominated the paint. He was tremendous. And De'Aaron Fox was really good as well. So to see your two stars, the two guys that you're going to lean on when you get to the postseason, to see those guys show up the way they did last night against that specific team, that makes you feel good. And overall, we always talk about the lack of experience for the Kings, and we should. There's a lot of inexperienced guys on this team once you get to the postseason, guys that haven't felt the NBA playoffs, right? Last night, and you could account for this, you were there. That was a playoff atmosphere. That was playoff intensity. And you're going against a team, as I mentioned, very physical and very talented and very deep and very long and athletic. And you are in the middle of a playoff atmosphere, and there was absolutely, for the first 45 minutes, zero evidence of a meltdown from the Kings.
No, that, like I said, they didn't back down from the moment at all. And man, if there's, and this is going to sound like pandering from the local sports talk radio host,
you local sports talk show host.
If there's another level to Kings fans and Golden One Center when the playoffs come around, it's going to be a downright scary place to play, Nick, because I was in the building last night for that one, and Kings, we've sat here and questioned, like, are the Kings built for the playoffs? People sit there and go, are they ready for the playoffs? Kings fans are ready for the damn playoffs, man. I've been in some big-time basketball environments. I was in Chicago in the 90s. I went to a lot of Bulls games. I was in the Deer District when the Bucks were winning championships. Kings fans showed up and showed out for that one last night. And I don't know if it's been, because you can't tell unless you're in it, unless you're in the middle of it from your TV. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's been like that for every big game that they've had here of late. But, man, was that a raucous environment last night. Afterwards, Chris Middleton said it's a fun but tough place to play. It's hot. He called it hostile, a hostile but fun place to play. Kings fans are ready for the playoffs. We can question what's going on the court and how playoff ready they are. But, man, that was an absolute madhouse last night for all four quarters. It was amazing.
All right, we want your thoughts on that game between the Bucks and the Kings last night. The text line is 916-339-1140. The phone number wide open for you. Kings fans, we want to hear from you about last night's game, 1-800-920-1140. Don't forget the website, sacktownsports.com. We also have the app, Sacktown Sports 1140. And if that's not enough for your content needs, you can always swing by our incredible, impeccable YouTube channel. It's youtube.com, Sacktown Sports 1140. And when you swing on by, give us that big fat thumbs up. We'll get to your reaction. Also, in 90 seconds, the Kings' Achilles heel was its downfall last night.
Cattle's
with you 1 mile at a time during the afternoon drive. Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
I'd like to get Chris Watkins' attention here. We have a suggestion in the suggestion box from Tony Dogs. Of course, it's Tony. Who's in charge of the graphics and fonts on this show?
What's the problem? I think it looks sharp.
Cattle's
the First Tech Federal Credit Union sponsorship right up there.
Yeah, shout out to First Tech.
Shout out.
Love First Tech Federal Credit Union.
First Tech.
Cattles and Ramie with the in black doesn't work when you have a black background.
What do you? I don't understand.
I don't understand either.
My background isn't black. My background is purple. Yours is the Sactown Sports logo. I don't know what he's talking about.
I think he's talking about, no, the graphics themselves on the YouTube, which I don't get because Cattles and Ramie is white lettering.
Yeah.
I don't quite. I love what it looks like.
I was going to say you're wrong.
Tony, we'll agree to disagree on that.
Thing, maybe our Twitter handles should be up there in white. That would be cool. But other than that, no complaints.
All right. I love that. No complaints other than one that I just slid in. Just got to get one in there. I mean, I am Ramie Makaloff. I got to find something. By the way, quick NFL update. The Dallas Cowboys have traded for Stephon Gilmore. Interesting trade.
Oh.
So they will now have Diggs and Gilmore on the outside. So that just happened. It looks like it's a compensatory 5th-round pick. We'll have more on the NFL coming up.
Talk about the Cowboys. I'm tired of the Cowboys.
We'll have more of the NFL coming up as we move along this show. Thoughts on last night's game from all of you? Again, it's 916-339-1140. The text line, the phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Let's go to some of the YouTube chat here. YouTube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. TCG says, damn it, Ramie. My streak has ended.
Oof.
He's now 6-1.
That was my first Kings loss, too.
Ward, Ramie, your fault for not wearing the Kings hat.
Stop it.
Hey, listen, I will say Ward is consistent. He came on, yesterday, and he said, Ramie's not wearing the hat. We've been on fire since Ramie's been wearing the hat. Where's the hat, Ramie? No hat, Ramie. No Ramie hat.
I had to stay neutral yesterday, man.
The big fat L last night.
I hope people understand.
The G1C. Ramie brought the L last night to the G1C. Okay?
And I told y'all I didn't know which way the magic was going to work last night. I told you. I warned you ahead of time. I think the Makaloff magic was on the Kings side in the first half. It was on the Bucks side in the second half. And from there, the players had to hash it out. You know what I mean?
TCG, by the way, says he's a graphic designer and he believes things are fine.
I'll take his word
so
for it.
There you have it.
Tony.
Javier Flores
Tony
wanted to ask this of you because you were at the game last night.
Yes.
Whether or not it stood out to you. The fact that Sabonis, not many free throws, if any.
Did he have any?
Javier says 0 free throws for Sabonis was insane.
That's, he was 0 for 0 from the free throw line. I didn't even realize that until he just said, and that's it, being at the game and reading, doing all the pre-show prep. Yes, we prep for this that we normally do before a show. That didn't even dawn on me, but that I did notice he wasn't getting very many calls. And when you look at how physical that game was, especially down around the paint and between Sabonis and Brook Lopez, that's pretty ridiculous. That's like not calling one holding penalty on an offensive line for an entire game. You know what I mean?
Mo had a tweet of a picture where Domas is dunking it, and literally, I think it's Lopez, has his entire hand on Domas's forearm.
That's probably a foul.
Yeah.
That one right there is probably a foul. I will, in the referee's defense, I thought for the most part they were letting everybody play last night, but for him to not get one foul, not one free throw on the whole night, that's pretty ridiculous. That's maybe letting these guys play a little too much.
That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Look, it was a heavyweight battle for 45 minutes. Cattles and Ramie here on this Tuesday talking Kings Bucks from last night. But Ramie, for 45
Lopez
minutes,
only had 2, and he was also taking a beating on the other end of the court.
Dude literally bled from the eyebrow like Drago.
Yeah, really. So, if nothing else, you can give the referees some credit for consistency, right? That's what we're always saying. If you're not going to be good and call it perfectly to the rule book, at least be consistent, and they were that for the most part last night in that game.
Okay, so look, the first 45 minutes, fantastic stuff. We gave the Kings their flowers as much as we can to start this show with a loss, but we've got to address the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter defense, Ramie, was atrocious.
Which is not what we're usually saying about the Kings.
Right.
It
was bad.
That has been the one silver lining or saving grace when we talk about the Kings and can the defense be good enough in the postseason. People go, oh, look at what they do in the fourth quarter. Look at the fourth quarter. Look at what they do. Last night, that was not the case. It was the inverse. The opposite was true last night. It got ugly in the fourth quarter.
And look, Giannis is Giannis, okay? It's understandable. Giannis does that to most teams in the league.
That guy.
32 points in the paint from just him alone. It's an insane number. Giannis is a freak, and that's why he's called the Greek Freak. He's very difficult to defend. And, Scooter 916 says there's only a couple of guys who could stop Giannis, and he plays next to them. He's very, very difficult. Slowing down Giannis, you could expect Giannis to do what he did last night. And frankly, there's really nobody physically on this roster that can even slow down Giannis. There's just not. There's not a good matchup. Kessler Edwards is not big enough. He's not thick enough. Your bigs are definitely not agile enough and don't have good enough lateral movement and have trouble staying in front of him. Your guards are just going to get pushed over into the paint and dominated. HB tried all that he could, but HB just is not going to be able to withstand the physical beating from Giannis throughout the game. So Giannis is understandable. Something else was bugging me about last night's fourth quarter. But before we get to that, let's hear from Coach Mike Brown.
I thought early in the game we took the hit, but I thought in the second half we moved out of the way a couple of times when we could have taken the hit. So if you're going to play against those guys, you're going to have to sacrifice your body, and you're going to have to get ran over. And it might not just be one time. It might be a couple of 2-3 times during the course of the ball game. If you don't, you ain't going to beat them dudes because Giannis is too long, too quick, too powerful, too athletic, getting downhill. So that has to be the first priority. The second one is, you can run a second guy at him. From time to time, we didn't think that we needed to, but I do think, and it'd be interesting to go back and see it, but I do think in the second half, we possibly had a couple of times where we could have taken a hit, but we didn't.
Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. Here's my issue. Everything that Coach Brown just said about Giannis, fantastic. Everything I just mentioned about Giannis, the absolute truth. What bothered me last night was that it was not Giannis who beat you. You got smoked by Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez in the fourth quarter. Lopez and Middleton combined for 25 points and 6 dimes. Ramie, those guys shot 8 of 11 from the field. They shot 4 of 5 from three-point land. The Kings gave up 43 points in the fourth quarter. Giannis only had 6 of those 43. You gave up 37 points in the fourth quarter to the Bucks others. You're not going to win when you do that. Here was Domas last night, disappointed to say the least.
Well, like I said, they're a really good team. They got a lot of weapons, and we kind of let go of our foot on the gas on some guys, in the second half, and then they got going, and they had 37-43, in the third and fourth. So that's just unacceptable. It's tough.
Unacceptable.
And I mean, it is unacceptable when you look at the end result, Nick, but and you can say, like, Giannis is one thing. He does that to a lot of people. Man, it's not the first time that those two guys have done. I mean, there's a reason that they won a championship, and it wasn't just Giannis carrying them to a championship single-handedly. You know what I mean? When those two guys are doing that, and you have Bobby Portis doing his thing, when those two guys are doing that, they're an unstoppable force. And yesterday we talked on the show, second time I brought it up today, asking, do you believe the Kings are on the brink of contention, as Zach Harper put it in his latest power rankings? And I said, if we're talking about the West, they're beyond the brink. They're contenders to come out of the West. I wouldn't count them out of any series in the Western Conference, but I would stop short of calling them contenders to win a championship, because I'm pretty sure the champion in the NBA this year and maybe even next year, you never know how an offseason shakes out, it's probably coming out of the Eastern Conference. And they're just not there yet, man. They're just not there yet on a level with a team like the Bucks. They've made huge strides, leaps, bounds in terms of where this franchise has gotten to and where they've come from. Last night in that fourth quarter, you found out why they're just not quite there yet. You know what I mean?
This was the concern that I've had. I understand the pushback, and this has become the nonstop pushback when you talk defense. Yeah, but look at the fourth quarter defensive rating. And I've said, well, look at 100 other numbers that tell you this defense is not good, right? Oh, well, if they just lock up in the fourth quarter, Nick, what's the big deal? The playoffs are different. Playing really good teams are different. Playing legit contenders are different. And last night, what you saw was the 25th team in defensive rating in the NBA going against the best team in the NBA, a true contender, and you got torched. Milwaukee shot better than 71% from the floor. They shot almost 67% from three. They had 9 assists in the fourth quarter alone. They only had 2 turnovers. So that's what I've been talking about. When you get to the postseason, when the competition level ramps up, when teams are more focused and they're playing the right way, is your defense going to be able to continue to be bad through the first quarter, 2 quarters, and then all of a sudden in the second half say, we flipped the switch and now we're going to win this game?
Right.
Because the Bucks scored more than enough points to destroy you last night, even though you scored a bunch of points. When you go against better competition, and again, we're not talking Giannis. Giannis had 6 points in the fourth quarter. You gave up 43. When you go against better competition, a better run team, more talent than some other teams, and your defense plays like they've played a lot this year, it's going to be tough to win a series. And I think last night was that reminder. You can't just turn it on against everybody.
No.
It's not how this works. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. We'll get back to the Kings, continue to talk about that game last night with all of you. And also coming up, a tweet that shook the NFL.
The only place you'll find Harrison Barnes is Sactown Sports.
He's got the bucket at the buzzer. Harrison Barnes.
Hey, Sacramento, it's Harrison Barnes, and you're listening to the home of the Sacramento Kings, Sactown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Bonnie.
I'm Tamara Berg in the KCRA 3 Weather Center. Plan for showers on and off. Chance of a thunderstorm this afternoon, and it's going to be gusty as those winds race to 40 to 50 miles an hour through sunset tonight. Get the latest forecast on the KCRA 3 News and the KCRA 3 app.
Protecting your home and your wallet just got easier. Get $100 off any qualifying heating and cooling system repair. And keep your home the best place in the world. Schedule an appointment today. Plumbing, sewer, electrical, heating and air. Bonnie.com.
Bonneville International Radio Station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older that are residents of California and who reside in one of the 6 counties that make up the Sacramento metro area, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest are not eligible to win, unless the station otherwise specifies in its own discretion. Persons who have won in the last 30 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. For a copy of the general contest rules, visit khtk.com.
How did your roof fare in the recent storms? If there's signs of wear and tear, address it before the problem becomes bigger. Cobex Construction Group understands the importance of a strong protective roof. The smallest leak can be the biggest problem. We provide homeowners with reliable roof repairs and replacements. Quality work and customer satisfaction are paramount to us. Get a new roof for 0 down and low monthly payments. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF for a no-obligation quote or visit trustcobex.com. Cobex Construction in Roseville. Do it once. Do it right.
Guys, fellas, men, are you Roman ready for the weekend? Right now, generic Viagra, aka sildenafil, is just $4 per dose at Roman. Just complete a free online visit with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional. If medication is appropriate, Roman sends what you need in discreet packaging with free 2-day shipping. Generic Viagra from $4 at Roman. Go to ro.co/Viagra. Do it today and get 20% off your entire first order. That's ro.co/Viagra.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home, and the men who use PTO to catch afternoon basketball in March with the boys. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Who wants to settle for a single TV? With more TVs, bigger screens, plus our fabulous scenic views, there's more to watch at Twin Peaks.
Near the banks of the Sacramento River, Perry Dye of the famous Dye family of golf architects designed Bartley Kavanaugh Golf Course as Sacramento's #1 course for fun. Dye's design and mixture of holes assures players of a fun-filled day with friends. Bartley Kavanaugh's moderately sized greens and generous fairway landing areas make for an affordable and fun round of golf. After golf, relax on the outdoor veranda with a cold beverage or a tasty meal. For tee times, visit bartleykavanagh.com. It's Sacramento's #1 course for fun.
The clock is ticking. Get off the bench and head down to Fasteners Tool Outlet, where you'll find the lowest prices on Milwaukee power tools and so much more. Why pay more at a big box store? Get a triple-double at Fasteners Tool Outlet with weekly and monthly offers, including up to 50% off select hand tools, batteries, power tools, and fasteners. Whether you're looking for a Festool sander, a Saws top table saw, or a Milwaukee Impact driver, Fasteners Tool Outlet has the tools you need to do the job. Make a slam dunk with Fasteners Tool Outlet, 6701 Power Inn Road, or on the web at fastenersinc.net. When was the last time you heard of a new car for only $298 a month? How about today at Elk Grove Kia? Your choice, 2023 Kia Forte GT or 2023 Kia Soul EX for only $298 a month. Incredible. With Elk Grove Kia's exclusive 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Why would you buy anywhere else? Worried about credit? Elk Grove Kia specializes in helping folks get the credit they deserve. No credit, little credit, bad credit, no problem. Bankruptcies, foreclosures, repos, no problem. Looking for the hard-to-find models, Tellurides, K5s, EV6s? Check us out online at elkgrovekia.com or come see us at the Elk Grove Auto Mall today. 2023 Kia Soul EX 298 plus tax 48 monthly $31.95 customer cash to assigning residual of $15,603.80 based on 10 pay per year 20 cents per mile overpayment based on 01740 plus FICO score. Kia finance approval with this payment GK858 2023 Kia Forte GT 298 plus tax 36 monthly $39.95 customer cash to assigning residual of $13,140 based on 10 pay per year payment at 01740 plus FICO score subject to Kia finance approval with this payment GK8581 both expire 3/31/23.
At Ashton & Price, we get injury victims to yes. Experience, yes. Ashton & Price has been around for over 25 years. No more insurance companies? Yes. Our clients focus on getting better, and we handle all the rest. Results? Yes. We've collected over $100 million for injury victims. No fee until we win? Yes. Our clients pay nothing until we win. Ashton & Price, the best at getting to yes. Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton & Price.
Sactown Sports.
Headlines.
It's Simone Rickford with your Sactown Sports headlines. Sacramento Kings went toe-to-toe against the formidable Bucks of Milwaukee last night, and despite the palpable playoff atmosphere in Golden One Center, they ultimately fell short.
The final score is 133-124.
Even with all-star efforts from big man Domantas Sabonis, who ate his 10th triple-double of the season, and De'Aaron Fox swiftly laying up 35, the Bucks' elite closing efforts proved too much for Sacramento's defense, and by the fourth quarter, tempers flared.
Now, we've got Trey Lyles and Brook Lopez, and we've got a melee.
Sacramento will have another chance to slide into the win column when the Kings open up a 4-game roadies, squaring off with the Chicago Bulls at United Center tomorrow night. And you, of course, can enjoy all of your Beam Team coverage right here on Sactown Sports immediately following Cattles and Ramie. As Sacramento's new home for all things 49ers, we have to break you off with the latest free agency rumors, signings, trades, and cuts around the NFL. Day or night, only SactownSports.com and our Sactown Sports app will keep you laced up with who's in and who's out. I'm Simone. Those are your Sactown Sports headlines. Welcome back in to Cattles and Ramie.
One brings Makloff magic, while the other, we're still trying to figure that out.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
The tweet earlier today that had the NFL talking and buzzing, we'll get to that in a minute or two, but a couple of YouTube chats about the Kings game last night, Ramie, wanted to bounce off of you. Mark Lane says,
bounce away.
Maybe should have done a hack of Giannis with Lennon Holmes.
Yeah, I would entertain that. If you're in a playoff series with this team and you have two guys like Lennon Holmes who you're not really using to, play basketball, then use their size and physicality to A, rough him up, wear him down, and B, put him on the line, which is the one weak spot in his game. So, yeah, I might take that tactic in a playoff series.
Kyle Lewis, Herter was out of his mind last night.
He didn't get a shot after the 4:54 mark of the fourth quarter. I was sitting there again.
Disappointed?
Well, I didn't take sides last night. I had to stay neutral, but I was sitting next to Kings fans, obviously, and we were both like, it's been a while since Kevin Herter shot the ball, right? And he was like, yeah. And I went and looked at it after the game, the play-by-play, 4:54, little bunny 2-foot layup was the last time Kevin Herter shot the basketball the entire game. And he was on fire in that fourth quarter. I didn't understand that at all. That was baffling to me, quite honestly.
All right, we'll get back to the Kings, but there was a lot of talk and buzz in the NFL today regarding Lamar Jackson because of what Jackson tweeted out. First, there was a rumor, and apparently this is like a Ravens fan site that had the headline saying Adam Schefter reported that Jackson had turned down $200 million guaranteed. Apparently that was not what Schefter said. So a misleading headline from a Ravens website started this whole thing because Jackson saw that headline and that story, and he quote tweeted the tweet with a picture of a guy with a bunch of hats on, obviously saying, yeah, that's not true.
Giving some like the side eye, like
yeah,
that look though.
That didn't happen. That did not happen, right? Then Jackson followed up that tweet with the tweet that everybody's talking about. And
just in case you weren't clear what the guy with all the hats making the funny face meant,
yes,
Lamar was like, let me explain.
So the follow-up tweet was Lamar telling us that the offer to him from the Ravens was for $133 million over 3 years. I want to go back before I get your thoughts on that offer, Ramie, to Stephen A. Smith on ESPN. Here he was last week. Of course, he's been close to this story. For some reason, the Jackson family reaches out to him to kind of get their narrative, their side of the story out. Here was Stephen A. last week.
All I know is yet again, I heard from Lamar Jackson's camp just minutes ago after you were talking, no number 160, 180. It's a lie. The last guaranteed offer he's received in terms of guaranteed dollars was $133 million. They're saying that anything else the Baltimore Ravens said is an absolute fabrication. That's what they're saying. I don't know. I'm just letting you know.
$133 million, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports, for 3 years, Ramie. Your thoughts on that offer?
And let's be clear, NFL contracts are weird. Lamar isn't saying they only offered him 133 for 3 years. He's saying that's all in the contract that was guaranteed. It might be a 6 or a 7 year deal. He's just saying the only guaranteed money he's gotten offered is 133 million for 3 years, fully guaranteed. By the way, you didn't read the full text, Nick. It said 133, 3 years, fully guaranteed, sneering emoji. But I need an agent. Laughing face emoji, face palm emoji. All this is important for context. I just want to put everything out there. You know what I mean?
I was going to get to it a little bit later, but yeah, sure.
All right. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
But it's not good that either side is out here airing negotiations, and it's definitely not good that one side, and I tend to think it's the Ravens and tend to believe Lamar Jackson and his camp, that one side is kind of just misleading or flat out lying in the media to paint Lamar Jackson to be a bad guy or the guy who's not taking what is a fair offer. And I don't even know if that's a fair offer, that number that's gotten thrown out there. This stuff is leaked for a reason. We talked about this before. And from the Ravens standpoint, they either want to strong arm him into agreeing to something, or at the very least, if they have to part ways with Lamar Jackson, they can go, hey, we tried. We did our best. Look at the number that we offered him, even though we never said it. Somebody said that this is what we offered him. And from Lamar Jackson's standpoint, he wants to get what he's paid, what he's worth from the Ravens or from somebody else. And if there's some kind of divorce, he wants to leave in the good graces of Ravens fans, I would assume. It's not good for anybody to be airing all this stuff. It's definitely not good when you're lying about your star quarterback to make him look bad because you want to win the PR war. This keeps getting uglier and uglier and uglier, and I'm having a harder and harder time seeing Lamar Jackson end up in a Ravens uniform.
I disagree with Lamar about the agent part of this because it seems to me that these two sides are closer than Lamar knows or wants to acknowledge. They're not that far away. They're really not. If you look at the first 3 years of Deshaun Watson's deal, it's only, $5 million more. It's for $138 million guaranteed in the first 3 years. So if Jackson's beef is, I want the same deal as Deshaun Watson, and I'm sure he wants a better deal, but the point is Deshaun Watson has the best contract in the entire NFL because the Haslams are clowns, right? So the fact that they're $5 million apart in guaranteed money through the first 3 years of the contract tells me that this is closer than, again, Jackson might understand or is being told or acknowledges or embraces. I don't know what it is. It doesn't seem like they're too far apart. And if people are saying, well, it could be a 6 or 7 year deal. We've talked about this a million times, man. What matters is the first 3 years. Mm-hmm. Every contract, the last 2, 3, 4 years on the contract. Look at Javon Hargrave's contract. It's for $40 million guaranteed. In essence, it's a 2-year, $40 million deal. Okay. So take the $80 million, $84 million. That's agents playing games and throwing numbers out there. So the last couple of years of that deal would be dummy years anyway. I don't think they're that far apart. And I wonder if Jackson now is so dug in. And I do have to wonder if you're that close, it seems to me that if you had an experienced agent who, could work with teams, you might be able to find ways to get closer to what Lamar wants and get this thing settled. It's closer than I thought it would be. It's much closer than I thought it would be. And as a matter of fact, I think if it's only a 3-year deal for $133 million guaranteed, I got to tell you, that's a fair deal. I don't think that's a bad deal at all, because Lamar would be able to get back into free agency before the age of 30. You get $133 million guaranteed. You play 3 years. You go right back onto the market, and then you could sign a $550 million contract by that point. So I don't think this offer is outrageous in any kind of way.
I don't think they're as far apart as it might seem, as you're saying, when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to the money. And you said, I don't know if Lamar has just dug in and that's what's getting in the way here, because there is no age. I think both sides have kind of dug in, and that's where they keep getting further and further apart. Feelings are getting hurt here, Nick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this, you can say it's not business, it's not personal, it's business, all you want. That is a direct reflection of what they think of Lamar Jackson and his value to the franchise. You know what I mean? So this is, it very much does get personal, and feelings are getting hurt here, and pride and egos are involved. And I think both sides have dug in their heels and now are more trying to win the negotiation instead of just doing what's best for everyone involved.
And let's not forget, Lamar has missed a third of the season last 2 years. 2 straight years, he's missed 5 games each year.
Yeah.
So $133 million guaranteed through 3 years, I think it's a pretty good deal. By the way, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers much later in the show, but we do have an update. Apparently, Rodgers is going to be on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Rodgers will be live. So
10 a.m.
There you have it.
Time.
Rodgers will be, with McAfee. Okay. By the way, Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. A controversial firing and a classic rant coming up.
Cattles
and Ramie.
Sactown Sports. Check out the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRosa every week on Sactown Sports. Get the latest on equipment, area courses, people who play the great game, and plenty of good conversations about golf. It's the Golf to Go Hour every week with Frank LaRosa on Sactown Sports. Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, America's most awarded golf facility. Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Hands up. No fouls. No fouls. Yes. Great job. Timeout. Hello, Sacramento, and all you listeners, it's Doug Christie here for the Good Feet store. Did you know that when your feet are not properly supported, your whole body can become misaligned, causing pain in your feet, knees, hips, or back? Good Feet arch supports are designed to support all 4 arches of the foot, placing the feet in their ideal pain-relieving position and aligning the body from the feet up. Good Feet arch supports come in a wide range of over 300 styles, flexibilities, and sizes, so customers can be precisely fit with the arch supports that meets their personal needs. It's one reason why Good Feet arch supports are only available at the Good Feet store. Visit the Good Feet store now for a free personalized arch support fitting and then take them for a walk. Experience for yourself the pain-relieving comfort, balance, and support of Good Feet. In Sacramento, Roseville, Stockton, Modesto, and Vacaville, online at goodfeet.com.
For a precision-crafted performance, the decision is easy. A new Acura from Acura of Stockton. Get the driving experience you've been waiting for in a new Acura. Get the best selection and customer service you deserve from Acura of Stockton. Shop in person or use our online express store at AcuraofStockton.com. Acura of Stockton will buy your trade, even if you don't buy from us. Don't settle for less than precision-crafted performance of a new Acura from Acura of Stockton and AcuraofStockton.com.
Your insurance company has an adjuster, shouldn't you? Call 888-GREENSPAN. They handle major insured claims from collapsed and falling trees. They represent you, not your insurance company. When you go to court, you take a lawyer. When you have a claim, engage a private adjuster to level the playing field. Receive correct and fair insurance claim settlements for property damage. Call 888-GREENSPAN today. That's 888-473-6277. California DOI license number 2E11301.
Founded in Northern Ireland, PRG has grown from humble beginnings to become the top brand in custom golf accessories for most of the world's top 100 golf courses. PRG offers original designs as well as Arnold Palmer, Folds of Honor, collegiate license, and Major League Baseball product designs. PRG is the official supplier of the Ryder Cup. PRG is available at major golf shops, or PRG makes it easy to purchase directly for your individual use at prg-golf.com. prg-golf.com.
It's Truck Month at Maida Chevy with exclusive all-in-stock pricing on a huge selection of new 2022 and 23 half-ton Silverados in stock, ready to go. See all the savings at MaidaChevy.com. Find new roads.
331.23.
Deb's constipation with belly pain, discomfort, and bloating kept giving her grief. She talked to her doctor to get some relief. Deb had irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C, which was a start. Saying yes to Linzess helped her do her part.
Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives. It lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2 years old. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. There could be more to your story with IBS-C. Talk to a doctor today. Say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS. Sponsored by AbbVie and Ironwood Pharmaceuticals.
Live and local in the afternoon.
They always keep you on edge.
Cattles
and Ramie
on Sactown Sports.
Another NFL note for you. James Bradberry returning to the Eagles. 3 years, $38 million, $20 million guaranteed. Another $6 million in incentives. Alan Lazard is going to the Jets. According to Jordan Schultz, 4 years, $44 million. Lazard going to the Jets. What could that mean? We'll talk about Rodgers and everything that's going on a little bit later. Meanwhile, earlier in the show, we told you Stephon Gilmore traded to the Cowboys. The Tennessee Titans signing Azeez Al-Shire. So Al-Shire gone from the Niners, second level of defense. Former Niners cornerback Emmanuel Mosley signed with the Lions today. That's a 1 year, $6 million deal. Darren Waller was traded to the New York Giants. A lot of stuff going on in the NFL. We'll get to all of that and more. We got Jeff Howe coming up a little bit later. We've just got a ton to get through between NFL free agency and, of course, that excellent, entertaining game between the Kings and the Bucks last night. But before we get back to sports, we'll get some other things.
Real quick, ask and you shall receive. Our Twitter handles up on the screen. Just like that. Boom. See? You think I'm a diva, Nick. I'm just always pointing out how we can be better and always just looking for little areas where we can be better. And the people here at Sactown Sports, they hear it, they appreciate it, they listen, and they do, and they make it better, man. Look at that.
You're still a diva.
Not for me, for you.
You're still a diva.
The Sactown Sports viewer, youtube.com/Sactown Sports.
Before we get to a story that interested me from Syracuse, let's go to Mike. Mike wants to talk about the Kings. Hey, Mike. Hello, Mike.
Mike.
3.
And I want to hear you guys. Yeah, I want to hear you guys' take because I'm all fired up.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Basically, I watched the game. Allen hit the backbreak 3 along with Brooks. Game's over. Kings gave up. Then you have Giannis. I'm watching the game. He slow dribbles around, and then he gets right next to Trey Lyles. You don't see what happened or what was said. And then he acts like some Disney character, right? Like he didn't do anything wrong. He's in shock that, his buddy has his back and they're going to fight. So I feel that, Lyles wasn't going to do anything. He wasn't even looking for trouble. But I will tell you that Giannis, he didn't even fight. He let his teammates fight for him. And Brook Lopez choking people, getting crazy, and I was kind of excited, but I was just fired up. The Kings are back, baby. What do you guys think about that?
All right, Mike. Let me jump in. He threw the Ric Flair in there at the end.
Ric Flair, woo.
Appreciate the phone call.
Whack him on top. Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Ramie and I will tell you how we feel about Lyles versus Lopez in about 10 minutes.
It's a heavyweight fight.
You want to stay tuned for that.
Two big boys.
Certainly interesting. Giannis absolutely did get in the way, kind of dribbled into Trey Lyles' path last night. Where it went from there, how Ramie and I feel, again, we'll let you know in about 10 minutes. But first, Brent Axe. Neither you nor I know Brent Axe.
I have no idea.
But he apparently worked for ESPN Syracuse for 20 years, and he was fired. And you might ask, was he fired because he had bad ratings? No. Was he fired because they couldn't sell the show? Sales was having a hard time? Not that I'm aware of. Was he fired because he said something that was misogynist or racist or bigoted, or did he cross some kind of line? Well, not to me, but he did to somebody. He works for, or at least worked for, Galaxy Media, which is owner of ESPN Syracuse, as well as 12 other upstate New York radio stations. CEO and President Ed Levine said Axe had gotten too negative about Syracuse University athletics. Quote, I had a problem with the content of the show. He told this to Syracuse.com. I'm an SU fan. I'm sorry, but I bleed orange. I'm not going to apologize for that, and I think a fair reading of the orange is appropriate. I understand Galaxy has a business relationship with Syracuse. Get this part. That Coach Boeheim and I are personal friends, and Boeheim is an investor in his company.
Nothing fishy here.
Boeheim is part owner.
Nothing to see here, folks. Look away. Nothing to see here.
He says, Levine says, I understand and acknowledge all of that. We've called it pretty fair, and I would argue we've been tough on SU when the on-field or off-field events warrant it. I just think over the past 6 months, it took a different tone and became overly dark and negative. I don't think that's what Syracuse fans want to hear. Now, Ramie, they were 17-15 this season. They finished 10-10 in the ACC. Yeah, a guy getting fired for being too negative about Syracuse.
Didn't they also put out a press release talking about how excited they are to have Coach Boeheim as part of the team, and he's going to be doing shows for him, maybe even host his own show from time to time? Isn't it strange, the timing of that? Jim Boeheim buys a part of the station. Jim Boeheim is going to be on the station, and now the guy who was just a little too tough on Syracuse basketball is out of a job. Could this be any more transparent or obvious what is going on here? And if you're a Syracuse fan, how can you possibly ever take anything on that station seriously or without the huge grain of salt that those opinions are bought and paid for by Jim Boeheim and Syracuse University? That is, I mean, do sports talk how you want to do sports talk, but man, are you just putting it out there that you lack any and all objectivity or honesty when it comes to covering the team that you're dedicated to covering to? What a joke that is right there. You can't help but laugh at that.
We have to be allowed to have opinions in this business. And I've said for a long time, like, I've got no problem eviscerating, attacking a team if they deserve to be eviscerated and attacked. I draw the line at personal stuff. I'm not going to take personal shots at human beings that I don't know. I'll say somebody acted a certain way, but I'm not going to call a person that specific thing, if that makes sense. I could say someone acted like a jerk, not call him a jerk. He had a moment, or she had a moment of acting like a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to have opinions in this business. And the fact that Boeheim's part owner, I mean, it just, the story stops there, frankly. I mean, there's nothing else more to say than the guy's part owner. Like, and the guy who runs the station, the guy who owns the station, along with Boeheim, is close friends with Boeheim. Like, what are we doing here? Just rename it Orange Radio, get the pom-poms out, hire somebody who's going to say nothing critical and move forward. Like, and the guy lost his job because he was, I would imagine, telling some truths that people did not want to hear.
Dude, even if he leaned on the negative side, it's his job. It's his show. Like, you hire people to give opinions. If you didn't want that, then why hire anybody but just puppets and robots and people who are going to go out there and parrot the things that you want them to say? It's an absolute joke, and it adds to the absolute joke of Jim Boeheim's entire relationship with the media throughout his tenure at Syracuse. If you weren't on his side, then you are absolutely the enemy. And I know that, like, the people are going to throw flowers at Jim Boeheim on his way out of college basketball after he retired, even in a weird, hostile way with the media last week. Like, even that was weird and hostile with him. I say good riddance, man. Like, I'm sure he did a lot of good for Syracuse University and a lot of kids who passed through that program, but you could have done that without being a jerk to people the whole time and all along the way and punching down and belittling people who clearly don't have your status or your power. Good riddance to Jim Boeheim. And this is just another sign of how the guy operates.
It's embarrassing. And if I was a listener to that radio station, I would never listen again.
Ever. No.
Because it's almost like state-run media, right? Foreign countries.
Right, exactly.
Like, you're not going to get the truth. You're not going to get true opinion. You're going to get the rose-colored glasses version of everything. Like you and I, our job is not to tell Kings fans what they want to hear. Our job is to have opinions based off of research and watching games and doing our work.
Yep.
You can disagree with it, but that's what it is. I'm not going to come on here and just say, oh, the Kings are the greatest thing in the world when I don't believe it. I tell you how I feel. And then it's up to you to agree or disagree with me. And hopefully at the end of the day, we can move forward and enjoy each other's company on the radio.
Are you with me? He's just a miserable dude. Never could stand Jim Boeheim.
Yeah, he's
glad he's gone.
Miserable. All right. Just had the call. I said we talk about it. Trey Lyles versus Brook Lopez, the fight. Did we like it or not like it?
Ring the bell.
It's coming up next.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports. The only place you'll find Malik Monk is Sactown Sports.
Oh my, what an athletic move that time by Malik Monk.
Hey Sacramento, it's Malik Monk and you're listening to the home of the Sacramento Kings, Sactown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
For your everyday vehicle. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP oil filter for only $26.99. Do the complete job for the right price. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply. Individual rates, coverage, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to terms and conditions, not available in all areas. Hey, small business owner, when's the last time you checked your workers' comp rate? For many small businesses, workers' comp insurance is one of their biggest costs. But some don't check their rate often. Did you know rates can vary? In fact, taking 3 minutes to check your rate with Pi Insurance could save you up to 30%. Just go to trypi.com, share a few details about your business, and get a quote that's customized for you with no hassle or hidden fees. We know you're busy, but spending just a few minutes to check your rate could save you money. Plus, when you sign up for pay-as-you-go billing, your premium is based on your actual payroll, not an estimate. So your workers' comp audit experience is simplified. See how much you could save with Pi Insurance. Ask your agent for Pi or get a quote at trypi.com. That's TRYPIE.com.
Family-owned Clark & Rush, celebrating 60 years of serving Sacramento. It's time to convert your gas water heater and furnace to electric. Just turn to the experts at Clark & Rush and Carrier. We electrify more homes than any other contractor in Sacramento. Plus, we'll help you get up to $6,500 in utility rebates. We'll even do the paperwork. Call or visit clark-rush.com.
Smart energy savings is what we do. Clark and Rush.
Call 916-245-2829.
I'm Craig Ashton of the injury law firm of Ashton and Price. Whether you've been injured on a bicycle, as a pedestrian in a slip and fall, auto, Uber, Lyft, or big rig accident, you need Ashton and Price in your corner. When you call Ashton and Price, there's no chatbot telling you to hit 3 for accounting. You're greeted by a real live person who will immediately transfer you to an experienced attorney. The consultation's free, and there's never a fee until you win.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton and Price.
When you take the time to shop at Folsom Lake Honda, there's one thing you'll always find: happy people ready to serve you. As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
Folsom Lake Honda. Yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
KHTKAM HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD2 Sacramento. Your home for the biggest matchups in the NFL. Sactown Sports. Sactown Sports.
Headlines.
It's Simone Rickford with your Sactown Sports headlines. Sacramento Kings went toe-to-toe against the formidable Bucks in Milwaukee last night, and despite the palpable playoff atmosphere in Golden One Center, they ultimately fell short.
The final score is 133-124.
Even with all-star efforts from big man Domantas Sabonis, who ate his 10th triple-double of the season, and De'Aaron Fox swiftly laying up 35, the Bucks' elite closing efforts proved too much for Sacramento's defense, and by the fourth quarter, tempers flared.
Yeah, suddenly we've got Trey Lyles and Brook Lopez, and we've got a melee.
Sacramento will have another chance to slide into the win column when the Kings open up a 4-game roadies, squaring off with the Chicago Bulls at United Center tomorrow night. And you, of course, can enjoy all of your Beam Team coverage right here on Sactown Sports immediately following Cattles and Ramie. As Sacramento's new home for all things 49ers, we have to break you off with the latest free agency rumors, signings, trades, and cuts around the NFL. Day or night, only SactownSports.com and our Sactown Sports app will keep you laced up with who's in and who's out. I'm Simone. Those are your Sactown Sports headlines. Welcome back in to Cattles and Ramie.
Your afternoon home for Kings talk and more.
This is Cattles and Ramie
on Sactown Sports.
All right, so we had a call a few moments ago asking us how we felt about this Trey Lyles, Brook Lopez, as Judge Judy would say, kerfuffle last night.
And he threw in a Ric Flair woo.
At the G1C, he did.
Yeah.
He did end the call with a woo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just makes that call near perfect when you do that.
Call of the year.
So this happened, obviously, at the end of the game. I'm pretty sure that most people, if not all of you listening to this show or watching us on YouTube.com, know what happened. But in case you missed it, there was video. It's not like the Zapruder film here, but there was video that showed Giannis intentionally dribble the ball in front of Trey Lyles. So everybody had given up at that point. The game was over. Everybody anticipated the Bucks to just dribble the clock out, and Giannis seemingly made it a thing to walk in front of Lyles, to dribble in front of him. Lyles took offense to this. He then fouled Giannis. I'm sure something was said. Then he pushed Giannis. Then Brook Lopez got involved. They went face-to-face. Trey then mushed Brook. Then there was a couple of chokeholds applied. I think Trey got the first choke on Brook. Brook, I believe, choked back. A bunch of guys ran onto the floor. It was a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And so
mushed him first. Before the choke. Mushed him.
Yeah, that's what I said. Mushed him.
And it looked like he was, I don't know. Who knows intent. It looked like he was trying to get to that eye that was already cut open, which
it was
good
like
strategy.
It was
like
it was like 70s wrestling.
Cut him back open.
Trying to work on the cut.
Work on the cut.
Trying to work on the cut. I see you're bleeding. I'm going to work on the cut. So what did everybody involved have to say about this? Well, we've got some reaction last night in the post game from some of the Kings. First, let's hear from the man himself, Trey Lyles.
A lot of people probably say, it was cheap or whatever. It's at the end of the game, but it's at the end of the game. Then why initiate it? And if you're going to do that, then you have to be ready for the repercussions of it. So, I'm not saying it's right by any means, but what happened is what happened.
So that was Lyles. Here was De'Aaron Fox's take.
Giannis can just dribble the ball out. That's all he had to do. Nothing would have happened.
So Fox puts the onus on Giannis and says, look, all he had to do was dribble the clock out, and none of that would have happened. Here's Lyles again, who agrees with Fox.
I think Fox said it pretty well. Could have been avoided if he just dribbled it out. If you watch it, I was just walking back, my head down. He crossed in front of me, reached from behind, kind of clamped down on my arm. So I pushed my arm off. He sold it a little bit. It was nothing personal, but, a bigger guy walks down on me. I'm not really one for talking. I think, showed it a lot. It takes a lot for me to get out of character. And, just not gonna go for that. So,
not gonna go for that. Not gonna have it. You get in my face, start giving me a little bit of the business. This is what's gonna happen. This is what's gonna go down. Was Coach Mike Brown upset by it? What was his thought process? Here's the coach.
100%. I don't know what happened, but so we ain't taking no from nobody. Trust me on that. And they all gonna have each other's back in there. That don't mean we gonna go out there and start something. We're not. but we're going to stand up for ourselves and each other.
Ramie, did you like it? Did you not like it from Lyles?
Mike Brown says we're not going to go out there and start something. Man, I don't know. And I'm somewhat reluctant to even give my 2 cents on this because people know where I come from and they're just going to accuse. If you've been listening to this show or if you're new to the show, let me tell you, I moved here from Milwaukee after covering and talking about and quite frankly, rooting for the Bucks for a long time. So people are going to accuse me of, this Bucks bias coming
Milwaukee hack
or whatever the case might be. And I'm wearing a Kings hat, by the way, as we sit here.
Oh, today you are.
Yes, today I am. But man, they did start it, didn't they? Like, if Trey Lyles, and by the way, after the game, everybody should say what they said. Like, oh, we're not going to take crap from nobody. We got each other's back. That's what you do, because that's what you do with family. You always have family's back, okay? So the post-game comments, but I bet if you caught Mike Brown or De'Aaron Fox in an honest moment, they'd be like, I don't even know what Trey was so upset about. I don't know what that was all about. Like, I was going to have his back because he's my boy, but I don't even know what that was all about because first of all, Trey Lyles says he dribbled. I was walking with my head down and he dribbled in my path. Do you think maybe because you had your head down, maybe you walked into his path? Like, I don't think Giannis was trying to be cute or disrespect anybody by the way he was dribbling out. I don't think he was giving much thought to it. I think he was just walking around the court and dribbling the basketball and waiting for the clock to run out. I didn't see any slight. I didn't think he was getting cute. I didn't think he was being disrespectful. They 100% started it. The Kings 100% started that thing yesterday. And I promise you that if Trey Lyles doesn't react the way that he reacts, nobody's on our YouTube page today. Nobody's tweeting us at Nick C Radio, at Ramie is tweeting going, did you see the way that Giannis dribbled out the clock? Somebody should have done something about that. Nobody would have noticed it or said a word if not for Trey Lyles taking exception with what at the worst is a minor slight in the game of basketball. I've never heard of this before.
I have so many thoughts on this.
Am I wrong?
So many. The first thing I would say is put yourself in the shoes or the sneakers of the other side. If you're a Kings fan or you're Trey Lyles, how would you feel? How would you feel if De'Aaron Fox was dribbling out the clock and he passed in front of Giannis and Giannis got into it with Fox and then Domas came over and they went face to face and what happened? I find it hard to believe that a lot of Kings fans would be, justifying the overreaction because to me, that's what it was. Now, did Giannis do it with intent? I have no idea. I can't operate another human's mind. I don't know if he did it intentionally. I will say that if you wanted to try to throw some plausible deniability into this, I've seen it happen a million times in NBA games that when guys dribble out the clock, they dribble it towards their own bench. They do it a lot. They walk over to the bench, they stand there, they dribble near the scorer's table, and then they hand the ball to the ref and they walk directly down the tunnel. So I think Giannis has plausible deniability of, I was just trying to get to my spot, dribble it out, whatever. If he was intending to step in front of Lyles, no matter what, to me, that is a massive overreaction. Now,
okay, thank you.
Could Lyles say something like, hey, man, what are you doing? Question it. Maybe even get in the face a little bit of Giannis and be like, are you trying to show me up? I thought Lyles overreacted big time. I thought the push on Giannis was an overreaction. Brook Lopez, of course, at that point, you just pushed their superstar. If you're the Kings, again, I use the example. If it was flip-flopped, and this was the Kings guy getting pushed, if it was Fox getting pushed,
yep.
Domas or somebody would run right over there and get in the face of Giannis or whoever pushed Fox. The face-to-face with Lopez, whatever. Guys get face-to-face, they chirp all the time. I then thought Lyles went over the top with the mush and the choke. I don't think anything that happened.
He went from 1 to 10 real quick.
Yeah, I don't think anything that happened. I don't think anything that happened on that floor leading to the fight justified the end result. I don't think what happened on that floor, it wasn't somebody, hitting someone with a hard foul. It wasn't somebody who did something extremely dirty. It wasn't like, even a guy like dunking at the end of a game, I think is more of like a violation of the unwritten rules. This to me was a misdemeanor, and Trey Lyles reacted like it was a felony. It was an overreaction. Now, people might say, well, what's the big deal? I don't care. I don't care if it was an overreaction. He's my guy. It's my team. It's my fight. Okay, great. I mean, if you want to go around and puff out the chest and be all pumped and jacked because Trey Lyles decided to mush Brook Lopez's face and then choke him, and they got into a, as I said, kerfuffle, cool. But here's the thing. Here's what I have an issue with. Trey Lyles might get, and I would imagine is going to get suspended. That might mean something. You're in the race for the 2 seed. Trey Lyles is not the Aaron Fox. But this bench, as we talked about just yesterday, was finding its groove. And Trey Lyles has been a very critical piece of this bench. If he misses 2 or 3 games because he wanted to overreact because Giannis dribbled in front of him, that's not good. That's not what you should be doing, especially this late in the season when we're talking about a playoff run and trying to get the 2 seed. On top of that, Ramie, the biggest issue I had and the biggest concern I had, who was in the middle of it? Domas.
Yep.
Like, go
with a broken thumb.
Yes.
And this guy's in between Trey Lyles and Brook Lopez. Like,
Yes.
these aren't 2 little dudes that Domas Sabonis is getting in between. These are 2 angry giants that Domas is getting in between and trying to separate with a broken thumb.
The last thing you want, and
It's
somebody,
so stupid.
Somebody tweeted at me, was like, yeah, but Domas didn't get hurt, so that holds no water. You don't want him in the middle. Did you see people might say, oh, yeah, Giannis was getting away from the smoke. No, Giannis was doing the smart thing. Giannis was 15 feet away from the crowd in the middle of a brawl. You want to know why? Because he's Giannis. Because he needs to be healthy.
It's like when somebody pushes a quarterback after the play and all of his offensive linemen come running in to fight. What does the quarterback do? He moves as far away from that pile as possible.
Like, go back and watch that video. Domas is in the middle of it, and as a matter of fact, he's at an awkward angle against the scorer's table. Something really bad could have happened last night. And yes, we're all fortunate that it didn't happen.
Over what?
That's my point.
Or he dribbled in your path?
He dribbled in your path. You made yourself susceptible to a suspension in a playoff race.
Is this an unwritten rule I didn't know about?
Not that I know of. And you put your star, the guy who dominated that game last night, you put him in harm's way for really no reason. I don't want Domas with a broken freaking thumb trying to break up fights when there's 10 to 15 dudes pushing each other and all sorts of chaos is happening.
If Giannis was like trying to go for 50, you know what I mean, when the game is already over and you take exception with that, all right, I can understand that.
And let me get this straight, because Alan F says I support Domas's actions, no harm, no foul. Look, I'm not sitting here telling you that Domas did anything bad. I don't think he did anything bad. He was trying to protect his team. He got involved, whatever.
Good teammate.
The point is, you don't want Giannis in the middle of a scrum for something so minute. Are you that upset because Giannis decided to dribble towards his bench and walked in front of Trey Lyles? Like, that works you up that much as a fan? Again, he didn't clothesline anybody. He didn't elbow anybody in the neck. He didn't do anything dramatically awful. He was dribbling the clock out and walked in front of Trey Lyles. The next thing you know, you got 10 to 15 guys getting in the middle of it, and Domas is smack dab in the middle. And, again, people might say, well, he didn't get hurt. Okay, well, that was good luck. That's good fortune. How would everybody feel today if Domas turned an ankle? Well, what if Domas re-injured his thumb? Everybody, to a man, to a woman, every Kings fan would say, that was so stupid. I can't believe they got into that fight over something so trivial.
So dumb.
That's so ridiculous.
Yep. And like I said, if Trey Lyles doesn't react, nobody is coming on here today like, I can't believe they let him get away with that. You see how Giannis dribbled? Like, nobody would be saying that.
And Scooter916 says, and if Domas wasn't in there, you're crucifying him today. You guys are ridiculous.
Yeah, he should have never been put in that position.
First of all, I appreciate you reading my mind and knowing exactly how I would react if Domas did not get involved in the scrum. Secondly, I would say the same exact damn thing I just said about Giannis. Giannis did the right thing. He stayed out of it. If Lyles and Brook Lopez want to fight to the death, let them fight to the death. Like, you don't need to jump in. Again, if you want to jump in and be a good teammate and protect your guy, I get it.
I get it.
And I'm not going to kill you for it. But if you stay out of it, I'm going to give you credit and say you did the right thing. Because the last thing you want is one of your most important players, one of your all-stars, a guy who's an all-NBA player this year, getting hurt over something so stupid.
I will say this, from an entertainment standpoint, as somebody who is in the building for that game, nice little cherry on top from an entertainment standpoint, the intensity of the evening. You know what I mean? I sit here today and I go, how dumb in the moment, I stood up and I went, fight, fight, fight. You know what I mean? And they're standing there holding each other's throats like Undertaker and Kane. It was an exciting moment to finish off that game. Just like I said, to kind of put a little spice on the intensity of how intense that game was at the end of the night.
And by the way, you got a couple of reactions here. TCG says he clamped his arm. Giannis clamped his arm. No, he didn't.
I didn't see that.
He didn't clamp his arm. He was walking in front of him.
Y'all are just making stuff up.
He was
man.
walking in front of him, and Giannis, and then Trey Lyles fouled him.
I'll watch it again. I'm going to watch it again just to see.
I just watched it again. I
right.
see no clamp.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I thought it was a complete overreaction by Trey Lyles, and they're fortunate nobody got hurt seriously over something so trivial. Even if Giannis had intent, again, I still don't think the reaction justified what he did.
Love Giannis just throwing up his arms and walking away. Like, man, what is this?
All right, Jeff Howe joins us to discuss NFL free agency in 90 seconds.
Sactown Sports. It's Deuce and Mo.
I know you guys.
Cattles and Ramie.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
All right, so we haven't talked to this guy in about a month or so, and Ramie was missing him. So we figured we'd get him on the show today to talk some NFL free agency, the big stories across the league. I am talking about our friend Jeff Howe, of course.
Jeff Howe in my life.
Yes, you did.
Yes, sir.
You've been talking about him.
Sure.
So here's Jeff Howe on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jeff, thank you for the time as always, my friend. The Aaron Rodgers stuff.
And I missed you too, so I just had to get that out.
The Aaron Rodgers stuff is just the drama that has no end. He is reportedly going to be on Pat McAfee's show tomorrow, Jeff. The Jets are making moves. They've reportedly brought in Alan Lazard. What is going on with Aaron Rodgers?
Does anybody know? I mean, really, like nobody. He's a very different type of person, and I think everybody has kind of seen that. Everybody's known that for a while now, but you've got a string of instances, or however you want to put it, a string of events that are leading up to this decision, which everybody is kind of assuming might come to a head tomorrow. Maybe he announces this whole thing and puts it to rest, but it's totally bizarre. And this is really the risk. I think when you see why the Packers are okay with allowing Rodgers to eventually go, and this is the risk that a new team like the Jets apparently would be taking on. And I mean, there are people around the league who are watching this just saying, you knew what you were signing up for, and it's already starting. So the Jets have to sincerely hope. I mean, they know that however long Rodgers ends up playing for them, assuming he does, they're probably going to go through this exercise every single off season, but they better hope that they get the winning to validate everything that comes with it.
Yeah, isn't he worth it, Jeff? That's what I keep going back to. Like, if he's the guy who won back-to-back MVPs after the last time he felt slighted by the Packers, isn't he worth it for all the headache and everything else that goes with it?
Yeah, I mean, if he plays at an MVP level, let's say he finishes in the top 5 in the MVP voting, he gets the Jets relevant again, they become one of the better teams in the AFC. I mean, they don't necessarily have to win a Super Bowl, but if he bridges the gap, I mean, let's even start small. If he bridges the gap and gets them to a point where they're comfortable to finally turn it over to Zach Wilson, whether it's a year or two from now, and he helps this young core, because they've had going on 3 really good draft classes in a row now. You know, if he helps this young core start to learn how to win, there are ways that this type of move can be a victory for the Jets, even without the Super Bowl. But again, you're going through a lot of stuff, and I mean, you got to wonder. Like, I mean, I'm throwing stuff at the wall with something like this, but look at what Rodgers came into the league watching. It was Brett Favre. And like it's all for like a decade. We're like, oh, there's no way Aaron Rodgers could watch Brett Favre do this and then do it again. I mean, hey, look what's happening. So how does this have any sort of impact on those younger guys? I mean, he's going to be an impactful presence in that locker room. So again, I mean, this does not come without some type of cost, whether we can see it or not.
Jeff Howe with us. Jeff, Lamar Jackson tweeted out 3 years, $133 million, and then mentioned, not having an agent or, he needs an agent with a bunch of emojis. If it is a 3-year, $133 million guaranteed offer, is that a fair offer? And where do you think things go from here?
That would be so. It's hard to say fair because this is such a polarizing topic, and I tried to get clarity on what exactly that meant. Like everything with this storyline over the last 2 years, there's not a whole lot of clarity as to what this actually means. But let's work under the premise that it was 3 and 133, or I'm sorry, whatever those numbers were. And you look at the franchise year this year, the franchise year next year, and let's say it was something to do with the offer last year, including the 50-year option. Then you put all those numbers together, and yeah, that gets you to a little bit. I think the 133 would be a little bit more than back-to-back franchises plus the 50-year option. Now, if it's the offer that is most recently been on the table, then you kind of got to question what's going on here. But I mean, these are just such unique negotiations because he doesn't have the agent, and there are complications from that. And I'm not, the type who's just going to stand on a box and just start ranting and raving about how you need an agent. But like, there are certain things that Lamar Jackson's missing here. And it's hard to have. Eric DeCosta even mentioned it at the Combine. But this is something that I wrote about, I think last September. Like, you can't have those hard negotiations at the table because you're talking directly to the player. The player's going to sit there and say, hey, I want Deshaun Watson money. And the team is going to say, you deserve to ask for the Deshaun Watson money, but here's why you're not worth it. Or here's why that contract is a unicorn and it's never going to be replicated, or it's not going to be anytime soon. So it's just hard. You got two teams, or two sides here. They've been negotiating for 2 years, and semantics or otherwise, like, people can talk about making progress. Progress to me at this point is going to be defined by whether or not you can get a deal done. So there has not been enough progress made.
You look at what's going on in Las Vegas right now, Jeff, and you swap out Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo. Today, Jacoby Myers is signed while they trade Darren Waller. And on paper, you look at those two moves and you don't see upgrades. Is this more about fits with Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, there's part of that because you can make the obvious correlation to Garoppolo and McDaniels and their history together. I mean, Dave Ziegler was I'm pretty sure Dave Ziegler was there in 2014 when they drafted him. We know Josh was. Anyway, the fit, the understanding of the offense, the fact that Garoppolo should be able to come in right away and help lead that offense and kind of, do it without as much resistance because he understands where McDaniels is coming from. He understands the concepts of this offense. Similarly with Jacoby Myers. Now, I fully understand. I did one of those grade the trade type stories today after the Waller trade. And I wrote it there too. I fully understand that Raiders fans would hate this grade. I gave them a B for it because I understand the logic. I understand where they're coming from. Now I understand why Raiders fans should and probably do hate the trade because you gave up a very popular player in Darren Waller. And if he does get healthy or play the majority, if not all, of the season next year, he's going to ball out for the Giants. And Raiders fans are going to hate that. And you don't know what that 100th pick is going to turn into right now. But with the way the Raiders are looking at it is you've got Jacoby Myers, who is 26 years old. He's on an ascending arc in his career. He navigates a similar area of the field. Granted, he does it a little differently than Darren Waller because they play a different position. But then you've got Darren Waller, who's sort of probably on the downside of his career, unless he all of a sudden revitalizes himself and can kind of shake the injuries that have cost him 14 games in the last 2 years. And then you throw in the fact that Waller, was probably only guaranteed one more year in Vegas. At minimum, was going to need to do something with his deal a year from now. So there was no certainty that he was going to be there any longer than an extra year. So the Raiders get a guy who is entering his prime. They get the 3rd-round pick, and they chose that combination of assets over somebody like Darren Waller, who, again, you look at what the last 2 years have given them, and it hasn't been enough.
Jeff, great stuff as always, man. Hopefully we do this again soon around the draft. Always appreciate catching up with you. And be well, my friend.
Of course. Appreciate you guys having me. Have a good one.
All right. There goes Jeff Howe from The Athletic. He was on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Coming up, a Western Conference edition of Feeling It or Fraudulent.
Ooh. Cattles
and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Thanks to the Xfinity 10G network, my little brother's friends won't leave our house.
Truth or Fugazi? It's time to find out. It's feeling it or fraudulent.
I still think it's Fugazi.
You and JJ both taught me that. I thought it was Fugazi.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
Fugazi. Fact.
I believe that is an East Coast Italian term, is it not? Fugazi?
I feel like we found something that would immediately set off Kings fans today. If you just said Lyles overreacted last night. Fact. A lot of people would get angry quick. All right, so feeling it or fraudulent, we're going to do a Western Conference. A Western Conference edition of Feeling It or Fraudulent. JJ is going to run through some of the top seeds out of the top 6 or 7 in the West, and Ramie and I will tell you if we are feeling that team or we think that team is fraudulent.
Fugazi. Or are you feeling it?
Fugazi. Fugazi.
All right, fellas, we'll start with you, Mr. Mackloff.
Yes, sir.
Are you feeling it or is it fraudulent? We're going to talk about Kyrie-led Dallas Mavericks, not the Luka-led Dallas Mavericks, because Luka's got the hamstring injury. Are you feeling it or is it fraudulent, the Dallas Mavericks?
Anything involving Kyrie Irving, it's fraudulent. It's fool's gold.
Just immediately in that column.
You can't count on it. You cannot count on it.
Yeah.
It's fraudulent. No, I don't trust the Mavericks. They're falling apart since Kyrie Irving went over there. It's gotten worse for the Dallas Mavericks since they traded for Kyrie Irving, and they traded a lot of their depth to do it. No, I think they're fraudulent.
I'm with you. They are 3-6 with Luka and Kyrie playing together. You got all the Kyrie questions. No matter what, they just follow him. And people might say, yeah, but Nick, they got to the Western Conference Finals last year. Yeah, they were a top 7 or 8 team in defensive rating a season ago. This year, their defensive rating is 23rd. They're not the same defensive team, and I don't think their defense gets any better with Kyrie and Luka in the backcourt.
Feeling it or fraudulent? We'll slide on over to you, Mr. Cattles, Nicholas. I've never asked this question. Is it Nick or is it Nicholas?
My legal name is Nicholas.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I just learned that.
Call you that?
My mother.
Okay.
Got you. That's a beautiful thing. Ramie, did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay. We're learning things every single day.
I mean, she doesn't call me that all the time.
Right.
You know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's Nicholas.
Yes.
Fugazi or Fugazi, feeling it or fraudulent? We're going with the Memphis Grizzlies, who are having some issues. Nick, are you feeling it or is it fraudulent?
Fraudulent. Ja is in some counseling, center right now. I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully he gets better at handling whatever he's got to handle. Steven Adams, Brandon Clark are out for the rest of the regular season. They're 13-21 on the road. Fraudulent.
Feeling it, but barely.
Really?
Yeah, because they're not going to sit Ja Morant out through the entirety of the postseason. And when you get that guy back, man, in a superstar league and a playoff series, Ja Morant can carry you pretty deep into the postseason, I think. And if you get those other guys back that you just mentioned, Nick, who are out for the season for the regular season with injuries, get those guys back for the playoffs. And they know how to play together as a unit. It's not like they're going to have to learn it all over again and gel and find their rhythm. I think they could put together a run, but it's on shaky ground right now. I'm feeling it, but barely.
Nick, I'm going to come right back to you because we slide right up the Highway 80 and go to the Bay and hit the Chase Center. I know you're probably going to say feeling it, but we're just going to check your temperature one more time. The Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry back. No Wiggins, feeling it or fraudulent?
Feeling it. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Look, all they need is to get one on the road, and I think they could sweep at home. They've been so good at home, and they're just so experienced. They have championship medal, and they have Steph. Just go back to Saturday night and watch Steph against Milwaukee in that fourth quarter in overtime. You're a Steph being hot away from losing games. So I'm feeling it.
I think people misinterpret when I say I don't fear the Warriors. I'm feeling it, but not fearing it when it comes to the Golden State Warriors. They are going to have to dial up that championship medal to make a deep playoff run. This season's Golden State Warriors, they don't look like a team that consistently can play good enough basketball to go to the championship. I'm not going to call them cooked like Charles Barkley did to Draymond Green's face at the All-Star game. I'm feeling it. I understand what those guys can do, but I'm not fearing it. I'm not scared of them in a 7-game series against the Sacramento Kings.
Fear the Dubs?
No.
Or fear the Deer?
I fear the Deer more than the Dubs.
All good. We're going to take that 1 hour flight all the way down to Los Angeles, and we're going to find ourselves at the crypt. We're going to dance over to the left side first, and we'll go with the Los Angeles Lakers. Ramie, are you feeling it, or is it fraudulent?
Now, remember earlier in the year, I was like, we can just stop talking about
that was
these
a loud
guys.
sign.
Yeah, no. Anytime y'all want, we can just stop talking about the Lakers as they're barely in, if even in the play-in picture at that point in the season. But I got to sit here today and tell you I'm feeling it. That's a team. Man, the West is just wide open, and that's a team that if they hit their stride, healthy LeBron, healthy Anthony Davis, the moves that they made at the trade deadline, would I count them out of making a deep playoff run? Would I say they can't beat the Kings in a 7-game playoff series? No, that'd be foolish, man. That would be absolutely foolish. With even an adequate roster around LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they can be a dangerous team, and they have that now.
All right, so this one's a little bit weird. I'm going to say fraudulent because I can't pick feeling it unless I know what's happening with LeBron. Like, if I knew LeBron was coming back full stop and would look like LeBron, then I'd 100% say feeling it. I do think they're dangerous. But the fact that LeBron's going to continue to be out, I don't know when he's coming back, what he looks like, and they're asking a lot of AD. I'd be concerned about him holding up. I'm going to go fraudulent for now with the possibility of changing that dependent on LBJ.
With the asterisk. Nothing wrong with that. We jump right over to the right side of the locker room, which is always weird. Have you guys ever jumped around and went to an arena or stadium that houses two of the same teams?
I've not. No, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, the crypt is a funny situation. We jump over to the Clippers.
Toilets!
And we want to know, Ramie, is it filling it, or are you fraudulent with the Clippers and the Paul George and Kawhi led Clips?
You know what? Fraudulent. I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Well, you just did.
They more and more are feeling like, now not as much of a disaster, but more and more feeling like Brooklyn Nets West. You know what I mean? Like the what-if champs. You look at all that talent there, and boy, if they can stay on the court, if they can put it together, if they hit their stride, I'm done what-ifing the Los Angeles Clippers. I don't think they're going to put it together. It looks good on paper. I don't think it'll ever look as good on paper or be a legitimate championship contender as it does on the court. It's just I'm not feeling it when it comes to the Clippers. Should work. I don't think it's going to work.
Feeling it. They've won. They've won 3 straight games during that 3-game win streak. Kawhi's averaging 32 and 8.5. I still think Kawhi's a straight up killer, man. He's still one of those cats in the NBA. No matter what, he can put you on ice quick in a series. He's that good on both ends of the floor. And let's not forget about PG-13. He was really good in the playoffs back in 2020, 2021. And they have depth. They have length. They have guys that can shoot. I think they're a dangerous team. So I would go with feeling.
Think Kawhi's legs are good for a playoff series, for a whole playoff series?
I don't know. I'm not his legs.
I don't know.
Out of all 5 teams, which one are you feeling the most?
Probably
what scares you the most?
Probably the Warriors, just because of their experience.
I was going to say probably the Warriors, or Nick was allowed to put an asterisk on one of his, being the Lakers if they get LeBron James back. The Grizzlies with Ja and Steven Adams back. They probably scare me the most. But that seems to be a ways away with Ja entering counseling and Steven Adams being out for the remainder of the regular season.
You know what I heard pretty much in that segment, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I think you guys are almost saying that the Kings are going to make it to the second round of the playoffs.
Oh, they're in the second round. Yeah.
Okay, I like the confidence. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
You going that far, Nick, today?
Book it.
Let me see the matchup.
Okay.
Let me see the matchup.
Got to get your brackets right.
A radio caller has a take. It's a take you don't want to miss. You'll hear it next.
Cattles
and Ramie.
We're still trying to figure that out.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
All right, we got to get to a listener phone call at WFAN who had one heck of a take about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. But first, yes, Ramie, TCG has been on hold very patiently. Now, TCG is somebody who is every day in the YouTube chat.
He's on the phones?
We love TCG. And, yeah, so he called in. He called in because he was so upset at our Trey Lyles, Giannis / Brook Lopez takes that he had to pick up the phone and he had to call us. He had to get it off his chest. So let's go to our guy TCG before we get to that great phone call with a very interesting take from a New York caller of WFAN. What's up, TCG?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
It is. Good afternoon, bud.
Thanks for taking my call, man. I love the show. And, yeah, you guys had me on a heater. So, first off, let me begin by saying that, Nick, I totally agree with you. Actually, you both on your take about, not wanting guys to get injured. We're in a playoff push, and getting a stupid injury during a fight would just be devastating to the team. I understand that take, but you also got to look at, we still do layup lines, and I guess guys get injured that way too. So, what's a little pushing and shoving? So I've watched that video over again, and yes, Giannis did hook. And well, first off, before that, Giannis looked at him like 3 times coming across half court.
Yes.
So he knew exactly what he was planning. As he crossed over, that's when Trey reached across and tried to hit the ball out of his hand. When Trey reached across, Giannis clamped down on his arm. You could see Trey get pulled forward a little bit, and that's when Trey pushed him. Trey pushed him not because he crossed over in front of him, but because he got yanked down when he did reach for the ball. And so that's kind of what sparked that. But that wasn't even that hard of a push. And so I'm okay with the push. And then obviously I understand Brook Lopez coming over to support his guy, and, the pushing went from there. But I just want you guys to understand, for me, and having to endure these past 16 years of just being curb stomped every year, and, finally seeing the team step up and be good, but it might even go back to our rivalry with the Lakers and just being seen as the little brother, and, not really having a lot of respect. And you kind of have to puff up your chest a little once in a while. And I think that due to the circumstances, him getting pulled down and what Giannis was trying to do, I'm not really sure what he was trying to do, why he doing all that. I'm okay with the little push, because that just kind of shows them that we're not here to get pushed around. We're not the little brother anymore. We're stepping it up, we're bringing it, and we're for real. We're here.
TCG, so, I get that point.
Thanks for the phone call, my man.
Getting that message out there. Yeah, for real. Thank you for the call. And I welcome the disagreement, a healthy disagreement. I'm good with that. And sending out that message, cool. Like the Kings are out here trying to prove something to the NBA world every night. You know what I mean? We've been talking about that all year, Nick. Mike Brown talks about that. Fine. And even beyond players having their teammates' backs, no matter what, fans should have their team's back no matter what. That doesn't mean that you can't look at what happened last night and go, that was kind of silly. We're fighting over that. You know what I mean? And Nick, I was there last night, and when you're in the stadium for something like that, first of all, everybody stands up as soon as it happens, so you miss a few seconds of the action because people get in front of you. And beyond that, they don't show a replay in the arena because I don't know why. They don't show replays of incidents like that when they happen. So I was like, maybe I missed something. Maybe Giannis did do something. Maybe the Bucks did do something that was disrespectful, that instigated the whole thing. I went home. I watched it over and over again last night, this morning. I hadn't heard anybody say that Giannis hooked him until we were talking about it earlier in the hour. So I went back and started rewatching it again during commercial breaks.
I just watched it 10 times.
I saw no hook. What am I missing? What am I missing here, man? Have your teams back. Have your teammates back. You want to say they sent a message, they ain't taking crap from nobody? Okay. That doesn't mean that it was necessarily justified or warranted. I saw nothing last night. And again, none of you would have seen or said a damn thing if Trey Lyles doesn't react. Nobody comes out here today and goes, man, people are punking the Kings. You can't let you see what Giannis did at the end of the game, the way he dribbled out the clock. You can't let him get away with that. You got to send a message. Nobody is saying that today. Not a soul. Not one person is calling us, messaging us, tweeting us. Not one person is sitting here today saying Giannis did anything if Trey Lyles doesn't react the way that he reacts.
All right, Ramie ran with the ball. We got to jump to something else here. It's fine. It was a great. It was a great tangent. It's good. Go.
Kind of silly.
Go.
The whole thing.
Let it loose. But I did want to squeeze this take in because I think it's interesting. I think it's pretty funny. So we'll get to Aaron Rodgers later on and the Jets and all that stuff. That dance continues. But there was a caller to WFAN in New York yesterday, and the caller had a take. Here was the take.
All right, listen, I'm a big-time Jets fan, right? And you know the conspiracy theory that I'm going to talk about today is the fact that Aaron Rodgers needs to be our quarterback, psychedelics or not. The conspiracy theory that he needs to spell is that I'm a Jet fan, 50 years old. I've never seen a Super Bowl. I feel that Joe Namath, I am not a Joe Namath sympathizer, but that man sold his soul to the devil back in 1969, and that is the reason why the Jets have been a horrible football team for the last 54 years and haven't given me a Super Bowl. Now, personally, with the psychedelics part of it, I think that Aaron Rodgers, listen, everybody thinks Aaron Rodgers is crazy for going on these psychedelic journeys, but he's probably just trying to figure out something about, himself, and it works for a lot of people. I also think that he's finding out how to combat the devil when he comes face to face with him once he walks into MetLife Stadium.
Well, I was just going to say, if he wants a psychedelic journey, wait till he puts that Jet jersey on.
So Aaron is going on the psychedelic journey.
Solid theory.
When he meets the devil,
I gotta say,
joining the Jets, he'll know exactly how to react.
There's been a lot of speculation and conjecture when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and where is he going? How's he making his decisions? Why all these off-season retreats and psychedelics? That's a strong theory that guy poses right there. Joe Namath sold his soul to the devil, and Aaron Rodgers is going to have to face him when he gets to New York. And so he's just exploring other realms, man. Exploring other realms to try and get the answers to these very tough questions.
Hi on YouTube, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. It's like Goodfellas, getting a kick out of that call. Don't know if you heard, but I'm not shining shoes anymore. Get your shine box. So people entertained by that man's accent, I would say, his very New York accent.
It was out of respect.
It was out of respect. It was out of respect. Oh man, and then one more. So I've gotten a kick out of the last couple of days watching the NFL Network, especially, and the NFL Network insiders, Garofalo, Pelissero, Rappaport. They're so just frustrated and done with this. Their I don't give two bleeps attitude is just, it's entertaining. And so Rich Eisen, apparently he's had enough with this Aaron Rodgers stuff. And here was Eisen yesterday, obviously frustrated on the NFL Network.
I can tell you that you sound like every Jets fan back here in New York, and all of the Jets fans I know.
Right. I like the topic, Bob. Look at that. Yeah, how are the Jets fans doing right now? It's a rhetorical question. Not great. Not great.
We're seeing it play out on live television.
Honestly, though, it's been about an hour and a half since all the young Turks for the Jets tweeting out positive news that we could read into. Do you know anything? What do we know? Anything?
I mean, no.
Okay.
I don't know anything. I think. Look, the last time I talked to people, they were hopeful.
Yeah.
Hopeful.
Okay.
But look, until it's done, it's not done.
Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. Yes, Mike.
Rich, can I ask you a quick question?
Oh, sure,
so if it doesn't happen, if the dream doesn't come true for New York fans, Ryan Tannehill?
Oh gosh. You know what? Hey, Mike. Let's not talk about hypotheticals right now, okay? Let's just focus on the present. We're waiting. We've lit candles. I swear to goodness.
Beside himself.
There is a New York Jets fan on the NFL Network hosting who is just tired of this.
He almost cursed right there.
Yes.
He almost cursed when, I'm sorry, who was the reporter?
Judy Batista?
No, the other one, Mike Giardi. Mike Giardi.
Yeah.
When he threw out that Ryan Tannehill, yuck. Rich Eisen wasn't here for your jokes.
No. And if you watch the video, Eisen is just like disgusted throughout
He's
the whole
not
thing.
here for your jokes.
He's just disgusted.
He almost told that dude to bleep off right there.
All right, we got to talk about Domas. We'll do that coming up.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
For your
Your afternoon home for Kings talk and more.
This is Cattles and Ramie
on Sactown Sports.
Third hour of the show. Thanks for joining us as always on this Tuesday. It is much appreciated. A classic back and forth last night, Ramie, between the Kings and the Bucks.
Yeah, man, that's fun.
A very entertaining, fun game. And, you know, the Kings truly did push the best team in the NBA. The Bucks are the best team in the league. And for 45 minutes, the Kings gave the Bucks everything they could handle and then some. It was a fantastic watch. And the guy that really was just tremendous from the beginning through the entire game really was Domantas Sabonis. Domas finished with 23, 17, and 15. Yet another triple-double, which is just, at this point, comes across as a walk in the park for this guy, which is outrageous. 23, 17, and 15. And it wasn't an easy matchup, Ramie. You know, Brook Lopez is seen as the guy who's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year award in the NBA this season. And Domas took it to Lopez right out the gates.
There's also a guy named Giannis who tends to roam that paint too,
yes,
and can block a shot or two.
Here was Coach Budenholzer in the postgame talking about Domas and that matchup between he and Lopez.
You know, we're just talking in the locker room. It was like a heavyweight, 15-round, whatever boxing match. And Sabonis was incredibly impressive, and, feel the same way about Brook. They're just two great players just going at each other, kind of his best stuff against Brook's best stuff. And I think the fourth quarter, they kind of started going to Herder, and he got hot, and, we had a hard time tracking him, and Sabonis was a big part of that. So, but just the whole game, it was a matchup to watch, Brook and Sabonis going against each other. And, I think everybody got their money's worth.
Now, earlier in the show, Nick, you did not go back on your declaration that you're done with moral victories, but you called last night a quality loss.
Indeed.
Which I don't know what the difference is, but I'm just going to let you have that.
Try to fight me about semantics here?
I'm not going to fight you on that. Can we have individual moral victories? Is that okay in the Nick Cattles book? Because before Giannis flipped the switch in the third quarter and went Superman on the Kings on his way to 46 points, for like 2.5 quarters, with Brook Lopez in his face and Giannis helping, Domantas Sabonis was the best player on the floor.
I was thinking that exact thing last night watching.
Giannis
was out there, and I was thinking, like you said, about midway through the second quarter, I'm saying to myself, Domas is the best player on this court right now.
And Brook Lopez and the rest of the Bucks getting as physical with him as I can remember.
Tougher matchup for Domas than Giannis. I mean, as we talked about earlier in the show, the Kings really don't have anybody. Good effort, good job, good effort by HB, but they don't have anybody who can defend Giannis.
He was going in there and taking all the bodies, taking all the contact, taking what it was as Budenholzer described right there. It was a heavyweight bout, and not only did he show a strong chin in a heavyweight bout, he was throwing blows as heavy as anybody out there was throwing. And for me, big moral victory for Domantas Sabonis last night. If I'm Domantas Sabonis, and I know he can't because athletes aren't wired to think that way, but put my brain in Domantas Sabonis last night, leaving that arena, I'm feeling really good about myself. I'm feeling like I'm leaving the arena like I got a W. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've
hanging over my head.
We've had the conversation about is he or is he not all NBA? I mean, looking at last night's game, if you put that game on and you watch it off the DVR at any point the rest of the year, what you see is a guy who is absolutely all NBA talent. And I would be very surprised if Domas does not make one of the 3 all NBA teams. And if you're an all NBA guy, this is what you do in those kinds of games. That is the elite player that we talk about who plays at such a high level when the game is at its highest stakes and the matchup is at its most difficult to give you what Domas gave you last night. Speaks volumes of that dude's talent level. This is somebody who should absolutely, no doubt, surefire be considered a top 15 NBA player this season. That's what he's done. That's absolutely what he's done. And you saw it last night. It's a big game. He embraced it. And he did everything he could humanly possibly do to get you to that W last night. Unfortunately, it fell short. The other thing I would say, Ramie, and I've said this about Domas's compete level, right? But the urgency. His urgency last night. You could tell. I thought the entire team came out ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the game was so much fun. Those guys came out ready to play. They understood the mission. They understood the challenge.
They knew they needed to get another. They needed to go to another level.
No
to
doubt.
Compete with the Bucks last
No
night.
doubt.
And they dialed that up.
And how do you do that? You know, how do you set that tone? Last night, the way the tone was set was Domas going right into the chest of Brook Lopez. All right, you're defensive player of the year. That's what people are telling me.
Mm-hmm.
Your defensive player of the year. I'm going to go at you. And I'm going to go at your chest. And I want you to prove that you can stop me. And Brook had a heck of a time trying to prove that last night.
And he didn't. Like Brook Lopez, as good as he's been defensively all season long, did not have the answer for Domas. I mean, look at that line at the end of the night, Nick. Look at Domas's line at the end of the night. And almost any time that you're getting that from one of your best players, we're talking about a win, man. We're talking about a victory when a guy comes out and racks a triple-double like we saw Domas rack last. Not just any triple-double, like a pretty dominant triple-double. Not many guys are putting up 23, 17, and how many assists did he have? 15. That is a dominant game against the best defensive big man in the league this year. Like you said, the guy who is the front runner or right amongst the front runners for defensive player of the year. To come out and do that and keep your team in contention with the team that has a championship under the belt, that where the Nick Cattles of the world and many others are saying is the best team in the league, to come out and lead the charge, like you said, of raising your intensity, raising your urgency, and setting that example for everybody else that's running into that game behind you. It speaks volumes about Domas Sabonis and the type of basketball that he's playing right now.
And he also showed the rest of the team very early on the amount of physicality you would need to match Milwaukee. Yep. And the matchup between he and Brook and what he did in that matchup, I thought exemplified across the board what the Kings needed to do to bring the fight, almost, no pun intended with the end of the game, but to bring the fight to the Bucks on a physical level. And Domas set that tone. I also just thought he was incredibly decisive last night. He looked very confident in everything he did. Yep. It looked like he knew exactly what he wanted to accomplish with almost every single touch of the basketball. And I think last night was Domas's, and this might just be recency bias and getting swept up into a fun game. I honestly thought that was his best game of the season. I would argue that was his best game as a King, and not just the 23, 17, and 15, even though that's nice. I would also bring your attention to the fact that he only had 3 fouls last night. He was playing incredibly physical.
And wasn't getting any help from the referees.
It wasn't getting any help. He only had 3 personal fouls last night. It's been an issue for him all year. I thought he played good defense for the most part against Lopez and others. It's tough for him because Lopez will suck you out with his 3-point shooting. But he only had 3 fouls, and maybe even more important, Ramie, he only had 1 turnover, which is huge because, first, the tough matchup against Lopez one-on-one, and second, we've seen Domas turn the ball over when he goes against length and physicality at times, and he did not do that last night. So only 3 fouls, 1 turnover to go with all the other great stuff we've talked about.
It was a pretty close to flawless game for Domas last night. And you're right. It might be recency bias. I can't remember being as impressed with the dude as I was watching that game last night and grading it on the curve of what he was up against in terms of the competition, the physicality, all the traffic that was in the paint last night. That was some performance from him. So individual moral victory, or are we just calling it quality loss for Domas too? What are we calling this one?
Individual moral victory.
There we go. All right. Come around.
Look, I think you walk away from that game saying to yourself, yeah, I'm not worried about Domas one bit. Playoffs, big game, tough matchup. He's going to show up. He might not give you what he gave you last night, but that man is going to show up.
I don't know what this says about me, but growing up playing baseball, if I went 4 for 4 at the plate and we lost, I'd still walk away going, hey, man, I went 4 for 4. I had me a good day. I did everything I could do. That's how Domas should walk away from that game last night.
I think that's a perfect window to your soul. 916-339.
What do you want me to do? I hit the ball. I got on base. What do you want me to do?
I did all I
drove
could
in
do.
a couple runs.
916-339-1140 is the text line. Phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Don't forget, Sactownsports.com is the website. Check us out. We got Emil. By the way, Emil Fregoso will be joining us in about 15 minutes or so to talk Niners, free agency, other stuff going on in the NFL. Emil and Chris Watkins and Frankie and Joe do great work. Sactownsports.com. Check it out. And don't forget that we have the app, Sactown Sports 1140. You can listen to us from anywhere. Again, it's Sactown Sports 1140. Check out that app and follow along. What's going on with Keegan Murray? We're going to discuss the rookie in 90 seconds.
Cattles
and Ramie.
on Sactown Sports.
Time to check out Cosi Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Again, thanks to Cosi Medical Clinic. Some people in the chat very happy with Domas's game last night. And look, you got to be. Thought he was tremendous.
Yeah, man.
As Eddie Olczyk, old NBC hockey color commentator, used to say, tremendously tremendous. He was tremendously tremendous last night. Somebody who wasn't. And look, we are going to give you the caveat. We're going to give you the disclaimer. We're gonna approach this to let everybody know we're not panicking. We're not freaking out. We're not saying that Keegan Murray was overdrafted.
Speak for yourself.
We're not saying Keegan Murray is done.
Bench him.
But what's going on with Keegan?
Is it too late to trade him? Can you not trade him at this point?
Too late. Have to wait till the summer. Damn it. Yeah. 7 points, 2 rebounds last night. 2 out of the last 5 games, he hasn't scored a point. And in those 2 games where he had a combined 0 points, he had a combined 3 rebounds. Again, not panicking. Not telling you he's trash. But I was a little perturbed by Katie Christensen last night watching this game.
Why is that?
Katie approached this as like there's nothing to see here. People are talking about the rookie wall and his legs. Well, here's what I would like. I would like a balance, okay? We don't have to lose our minds because Keegan hasn't played great in 3 out of the last 5 games. I would argue Keegan has been invisible 3 out of the last 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
The invisibility cloak he's been wearing, okay?
That's a good comic book reference. I don't know if you meant to or not.
Including, I used to collect comics when I was 12.
Okay. I appreciate what you did there.
Not getting rebounds, not scoring, not taking many shots, just not active. And I don't think we have to lose our minds, Ramie, about this and say, oh, this dude is done. But to just overlook it or to sweep it under the rug or to gloss over and say, it's that big of a deal. It's not. I don't think that's the right way to approach this either. I mean, we're getting closer to the playoffs. We have to tell you when somebody, we just waxed poetic about Domas because he was ridiculously good last night. But Keegan, the fact is, 3 out of the last 5 games, he hasn't been very active. He hasn't been very productive. And that against good teams can cost you.
You're not going to like my
Are you gonna chant for a trade here?
No.
You're gonna tell me he's done?
I'm more along.
I never know with you.
No, I'm honestly more along the lines of Katie Christensen on this, and not in that it's necessarily no big deal because, man, you to make a deep playoff run, you're gonna need night in, night out, basically the best version of Keegan Murray because this team counts on for them to be the best version of the Kings that they can be. It's when Keegan Murray is your number 3 option. You know what I mean?
Microphone with Chris Watkins and Deuce Mason.
It's Domas, it's Fox, and when the Kings are at their best,
it's a mic, not a toy.
Keegan slots in behind those 2 guys, and then you have Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter,
right,
and the rest. So you're gonna need him, but at the same time, like this guy ain't gonna come out every night and look like the best player. You know what I mean?
But see, but that's taking the leap.
This is rookie stuff, and it's not new.
But that's taking the leap that I don't think is necessary. I'm not saying he needs to come out and average 15 points a night. I'm not saying he needs to come out and score 20.
I'm saying seeing these
not
games.
Scoring a bucket, getting 3 rebounds over 2 games. Like, Coach Brown, I can guarantee you this. You know who has a problem with it? Coach Brown.
Sure.
Look at Keegan's minutes.
Obviously.
Keegan can't break 26, 27 minutes the last 3-4 games.
But this isn't something new. Like, if you're worried about him hitting a rookie wall, if that's what you're worried about, this was happening. I mean, I'm looking at his game by game right now. He had 6 and 5 in mid-February. He had 2, 3, and 2 to start February. He had now January. He was ridiculous.
But we're 65 games in. That's the difference.
But he's still
more games in. I know. So what I'm saying is, look,
December was awful.
Here's the biggest issue with this, right? Again, I'm not saying I'm surprised. I'm not saying that I'm shocked. I'm not saying that there's not any reason or any of that behind it. What I'm saying is, right now, you got how many games left? 16, 15, 16?
15.
You're getting closer and closer and closer to the postseason, okay? You need to know who you can count on. You need to know as you get ready to try to make a deep playoff run who you can depend on. And look, this might become a blip. And Keegan next week, Keegan tomorrow against Chicago could score 30. And we'll say, okay, great.
Back on track.
He got back on the beam.
Mm-hmm.
I understand nobody's telling me anything I don't know about rookie seasons, and I get it. But what I'm saying is, you have to know who you can depend on as you play in the postseason. And if Keegan continues to have these drastic kind of ebbs and flows, if he goes a couple of games without scoring, if he goes a couple of games with grabbing 2 or 3 rebounds combined, then I don't feel as good about depending on Keegan going into a postseason series
neither do I.
as I did a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks, a month ago.
I would like to see January Keegan Murray show up for the playoffs. Am I necessarily convinced that'll happen? No. And if that doesn't happen, he's still a guy that's going to be able to help and contribute, but you won't be the best version of yourself. I get what you're saying about wanting that version of Keegan Murray.
We were just talking about this guy a month ago.
I understand.
About developing into the third option on this team and how he's developed so much and he's opening up his game and he's doing this, he's doing that. And then he's kind of been in a shell the last few games.
Agreed. I can't disagree with you. I know I can't necessarily count on that to be the case of him being there night in, night out, of being the best version of himself. I hope for it.
And if that's the answer, it's fine. I'm just saying for people who might, I think we have to prepare for that. If this continues, you have to prepare that Keegan might not be as vital of a piece in the playoffs as you were hoping just a month ago. And I think TCG brings up a great point. And, he points out in the YouTube chat, that Keegan's still learning how to play physical. Last 3 games have been very physical. He disappears when it gets rough. I want to pay attention to that line. He disappears when it gets rough. And what my message is, the postseason ain't nothing but rough. And so if we were hoping that Keegan was going to be able to give this team an offensive boost, because again, we were very excited going back a few weeks ago. He was developing. We were waxing poetic. We said, this guy, if he continues to be, somebody who's the worthwhile third piece of this team as you get to the postseason, this team's very, very dangerous. And all I'm saying is if TCG is right, and by the evidence so far, as the game gets more physical, Keegan does have more issues. If that's what's going to happen when we get to playoff basketball, then we should probably pump the brakes a little bit as far as our expectation level for Keegan. And I think it does a disservice for everybody to not point that out, because I don't want people to just say, oh, it's just rookie, it's just rookie stuff. No, if it's an issue where it's more physical, which is why he's not grabbing rebounds the last few games, if it's that, then he needs to, as TCG points out, he needs to develop that part of his game and approach. And if he doesn't get to that point this year, it's fine. It's just, let's not expect this guy to be a major piece of the puzzle in the postseason.
If he hits a January-like stride come playoff time, this is a super dangerous team. If he's this guy who's up and down and like a lot of rookies are, the ebbs and flows of a rookie season, it's something you're going to have to overcome in the postseason. And that's a possibility. It's a possibility that Keegan Murray's play and inconsistency in his play as a rookie will be something that you have to overcome in the playoffs.
Yes.
I totally accept that that's a possibility.
And the good news is, I think you've got the guys. The good news is you don't have to rely on Keegan to be that third guy.
You're the best version of him,
right?
Of yourselves when he is that guy.
When he's playing great like that.
But you can find ways to win when he's not.
You can have Herter go crazy like last night in the fourth quarter. You can have HB come up and put up a big game. You can have Monk and Lyles come off of the bench and give you the production. So that's the good news of this. I'm just saying individually in a vacuum, looking at, who Keegan is and how much people should, expect from him. We all have to remain cognizant of the fact that he is a rookie. He is, when the game gets physical, a little less aggressive and active. And if that continues, then other guys will have to step up. And I think those other guys are capable of stepping up. But I wouldn't treat it as nothing. That's all. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Don't forget the website, sacktownsports.com. Also the app, Sacktown Sports 1140. Next, 49ers, an NFL beat writer for Sactown Sports, Emil Fragoso, joins us in studio.
Cattles.
And Ron.
Love.
Love this song.
Little LL.
Soft LL.
Simone got the big LL smile on her face right now. Can't hear you still.
I can't hear Simone either.
She wants to say something.
I was going to say, what about the kid? Emil?
What kid? Oh, Emil?
Yeah. Do you need some cans?
Yeah, he needs headphones to hear Simone.
I'll get him some cans.
Wait a minute.
What?
So Emil's known for quite a while. He's going to be on the show.
Yes.
He walks into the studio.
I don't think he accounted for the fact that he
doesn't put any cans on
to hear the people on the other side of the glass. Is
his mic on? His mic's
I don't
not
hear
on
it.
either.
He has it turned on.
I can't hear.
Oh,
there we go. A little bit more juice.
There we go.
There we go.
All
There
hell's
it is.
breaking loose right now. I make an LL joke and all hell breaks loose.
Well, I know that.
All right, Emil Fregoso with SactownSports.com.
Our guys, right?
He writes all about the Niners. He writes about the Raiders, of course, some other big NFL stuff as well. Emil, we got a lot to dive through here, buddy. There's a lot going on in the world of the 49ers. Let's start with this.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on the Javon Hargrave deal?
Massive. Out of the blue. Like, shock everyone, including Matt Mayoko and all the NBC guys out there who are in touch with every single person, every single contact possible. They were shocked by this. To pull off a deal of getting Javon Hargrave, who is arguably the best defensive tackle in this class of free agents, arguably the best defensive lineman in this class, defensive player possibly. That's a huge deal. And to be able to afford a contract like this, 4 years, $84 million, I mean, where are they getting the money from? A lot of restructuring, a lot of things got to happen, but very much a win now move for them.
That being said, I mean, part of where they got the money from, Emil, is, to slide in this piece of the pie, they had to cut out a couple other pieces of the pie. We've seen a couple free agents walk away now. Do you think they've added more than they've lost with that one big free agent signing? And you look at some of the guys that have walked out the door.
They've added more star power. Depth they have lost, yes, losing Aziz Al-Shire, losing Emmanuel Mosley. Those are big losses. They'll have to fix that somehow, either in the draft with their 11 draft
Ward,
picks. Jimmy Ward as well. Yeah,
yep.
McGlinchey, they were kind of moving off of anyway. They wanted to give Colton McKivitz a shot at that right tackle spot. He's been so consistent for them as a swing tackle. But yeah, there's a lot of issues in terms of what's their depth going to look like, because their biggest strength has been their depth, especially on the defensive line, offensive line, whatever it is. They have a lot of depth there. But this is a win now move and a statement move for them. And it's the one, frankly, they probably needed to make.
Emil Fregoso is with us here in studio, Cattles and Ramie on this Tuesday. Of course, all guests on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Why have him on the hotline when he's in the building working for us? We just bring him right down the hall.
Yep.
So here's an interesting kind of philosophical question for you, Emil.
Yeah.
So the Niners, I think they had two ways they could go.
Mm-hmm.
They could spend really big on the defensive line and bring in somebody like Hargrave, right? And spend less money at the vet quarterback position, which they did in Sam Darnold.
Yes.
They could have gone another way. They could have used some of that money that they paid Hargrave and brought in maybe a little bit of a quote-unquote sexier veteran quarterback by paying him more money and leaning less into the defense. Are you okay with this plan of let's go all in with Hargrave, build this defense, and we got enough at quarterback that we can survive?
It's not about building the defense because they already have so many good players in place already on that defense. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead. There's so many good players already. It's about shoring up the weaknesses. And what's been the biggest weakness for the Niners, especially last season in the playoffs? It was the defensive line. Up the middle, in the interior. Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, they ran all over them in the NFC Championship game. It's about making sure every spot has a strength. And with Javon Hargrave, you can no longer double team Nick Bosa. You can no longer let Eric Armstead go one-on-one. You got to go at every single player. You cannot just box out two players. You're not getting a sack. You're not getting a tackle. Everyone's going to be able to eat now because of Javon Hargrave's impact on the interior.
I think when you look at the quarterback picture for the 49ers, Emil, and to hear John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan tell it that Brock Purdy is our guy, still believe in Trey Lance, that he can keep this thing on the tracks if Purdy isn't ready, but Purdy is our guy, and that's Sam Darnold, that's just some insurance. What do you think are the chances that the quarterback position is chaos all over again for the 49ers next season?
Depending on the last few seasons, probably high. I mean, you could do a 50-50 shot that they could come down and Sam Darnold could play a couple games this season. I mean, he did it last year with the Carolina Panthers and had him almost in playoff contention for a second there. And you can tell by the contract what he signed with all the incentives of play time, QBR, wins, that those are in there in case he has to step in and be the guy. So it's a really good deal for both sides, and probably he doesn't play that much. He probably doesn't hit those numbers, but if he has to, just like Jimmy G last year with his restructure, it makes sense to have a guy who he's only 25 years old. He's still got time to be somewhat decent Sam Darnold in the NFL. Who knows? Maybe Kyle can unlock him. You never know.
Did you want a little bit more proven, a little bit more safe, a guy at quarterback to protect themselves?
My curiosity was more with how are they going to be able to afford a top end backup? And Sam Darnold is more of a top end backup. So getting him at a number of 4.5, 3.5 guaranteed is a really, really good number. I was expecting it to be someone like a Matt Ryan or an over the hill quarterback who has seen, better days in the past, but's trying to win a ring and be kind of a player coach kind of thing.
Sure.
And so that's what's surprising about it too. And why it's so perplexing is Sam Darnold. Okay. Didn't expect it, but I kind of like it.
Emil Fregoso with us, sacktownsports.com. Talk about perplexing. Is Jimmy G much of an upgrade over Derek Carr for the Raiders?
No, not even close. Like, he's a downgrade. And I saying that as nicely as I can. Jimmy Garoppolo, I've watched you, love you, man. But I don't know how much better you're going to do than Derek Carr with his offense. And maybe Josh McDaniels knows what he's doing with Jimmy Garoppolo. But, Nick, as a Patriots fan, do you think New England 2.0 is going to work in Las Vegas?
I would not be overly confident of that.
That's the way I feel too.
Yeah.
I just don't know kind of what they think is going to happen. I feel like there are a lot of issues, especially on the defensive end, not even on the offensive part of it. The
defense is a mess.
Yeah. If you can't sign Denzel Perryman, their best linebacker, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, you need someone to tackle. Like, are we just going to outscore people? Is that what Jimmy Garoppolo does? Does he outscore people? I don't think so.
Do you think this is just them counting on a better fit of Jimmy G coming in and knowing Josh McDaniels and his system? You trade Darren Waller, but you bring in Jacoby Myers, another guy who knows Josh McDaniels and his system. Is that what they're banking on?
Yeah.
Is just these guys being a better fit with Josh McDaniels and what he's trying to do?
They're making it on the Patriots way. And Mark Davis has given Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, they've given them the reins to kind of run it the way they did in New England and kind of get their guys and all that stuff. And who knows? It might work with Jimmy Garoppolo. He knows the system better. He had some good days in New England, but that was also a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
So we don't know what it is. And Jimmy's not the player he used to be in terms of especially mobility. He can't really move in that pocket. And with the Raiders and their offensive line issues at times, who knows what it's going to be like?
It's a scary combo.
His name is Emil Fregoso. Again, he was kind of sort of on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline, somewhat. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Emil, thanks for the time, man. It's much appreciated. We'll do this again when we got a little bit more time, break down the 49ers. I would say near draft time, but I don't know. They got a lot of picks, but not a lot of early picks. I don't know how many people are going to be paying attention with those compensatory picks.
That's their bread and butter, though.
It is.
They trade up? Any possibility they trade up with all those picks?
Totally a possibility. Absolutely. If they want to go after a certain guy, they're looking at offensive tackles, they're looking at offensive linemen, defensive linemen, maybe some cornerback too. They need that now that they've lost Emmanuel Mosley. So there's a possibility for a trade in the second round, but that's kind of as far as I think it can go.
All right, he's Emil Fregoso, Cattle's Ramie here on Sactown Sports. We talk Dungeons and Dragons, weight loss, and more. What they said what next?
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Folsom Lake Kia.
I'm Mark Finan in the KCRA.
you're going to get with an open mic. It's the good, bad, ugly, and funny from this past week in sports.
They said what?
On Kettles and Ramie.
We got some interesting sound bites. They said what this week?
Always do.
Kind of all across the board, all around the place. By the way, the NCAA tourney has started.
What?
Yeah. Have you been watching? You have it on in the studio.
Wait, this is like the tournament?
Well, it's the
these are the play-in games?
Yeah.
Are these part of the
yeah.
Are these part of the station pool? Are there points to be had in the station pool on this?
I have no knowledge of any pool that you talk about.
I haven't it's just for cookies.
Oh, the cookies.
Yeah,
pool.
the cookie pool.
Oh, yeah.
Because I haven't filled out my bracket for the cookie pool.
No, you don't have to.
So I'm not losing any points here.
You don't have to worry about that.
Good.
No. I'm going to do
all you be down 4 already, Ramie.
I'm going to win all them cookies.
I'm going to do all my work tonight.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'll just cram
Well, I fly out for Vegas tomorrow after the show.
Oh,
so
that is true.
I kind of have to get it done.
That is true.
By tonight. All right. Mike Brown. Obviously, we know one of his passions in life is basketball. We also found out this week that he has another passion in life. What could it be? Well, listen to this.
I heard you play Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play it all the time. I love it. Love the fun game. My son, my youngest son, actually plays D&D. Cameron. Good. Well, it's a fun game though. Yeah. The only I love to play. It's just so long, man. It's kind of like golf. I don't really like golf like I like Dungeons and Dragons. They're both long. I'd rather play D&D than golf though.
So he gives the check mark to D&D over golf.
I never got into Dungeons and Dragons.
You've never played?
I've literally never played the game in my life.
I got in deep when I was younger.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I've never played one time in my life either.
Got in deep.
Simone, you too?
I've only played once.
Okay.
But it's
So if I busted
definitely
out
in my alley.
If I busted out the term Vorpal's sword, none of you guys would know what I'm talking about.
Pardon me? Is that a hockey player?
A Vorpal sword is a sword that you could slice limbs off with.
Really?
Yeah.
So I just asked Simone this on this side of the glass. Was D&D, and she said yes. D&D was the thing where they had different places set up throughout your community and you could go, like they had shops and stuff.
Yeah, they used to have like places you could get
Headquarters
D&D stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't go there to play. You could go. I think you could go there and play, but we never did that. We used to play at like my buddy's house and my brother's friend's house.
That's where you'd go to like get the cards.
Yeah.
And the
So
pieces.
they had all sorts of 20-sided die and 10-sided die and 4-sided
I didn't
die
know
and
you had
6-sided die.
And I don't say this in a derogatory.
Little pieces, and you had the like the little grid you laid out so you can go. Oh yeah, man.
I don't say this in a derogatory
And the dungeon
way.
master would have a big board in front of him. So
A Vorpal sword?
No, big board in front of him or her, and you'd go on adventures, man.
I can't believe
I was all in
from
on D&D.
you.
So 60-second synopsis. What is the game about? It's a dice game
Good luck.
on a
So,
board.
like,
Good luck.
Get him, Nick.
In 60 seconds.
I've never didn't know about D&D.
So you're living in like medieval times, pretty much, and you go on these adventures. You go on. Sometimes you. So you could go and one night we'd play and it was like a fun night where you would just go around and mess around and you do all sorts of stuff about the town. And it all depends on the roll of the die of how your character reacts to certain situations, how much they drink, how much they do this, how much they do that.
Cooperative play.
If they get into a fight at a gentleman's club back in the day in the medieval times, if you mouthed off to somebody who was sitting next to you at the bar and if it turned into a fight, what fight did it? So it's all that, but you also would get into get into wars and you'd have to kind of build your own army and so you just have different characters. And it was, if you like creative writing and you like just using imagination and stuff like that, I found it to be fun.
I'm not saying this to be insulting or derogatory. I say this.
You've been waiting so long to drop this line. It better
the
be good.
utmost respect. Yeah. I didn't know you had a nerdy side to you.
I mean, I like pro wrestling.
Yeah, but
I feel like anybody who likes pro wrestling has a nerdy side.
I guess, but I mean, like Dungeons and Dragons, that's a different brand of nerd. You know what I mean? And one of the things I love about what's happening in pop culture today.
One of the guys who used to play with us was a Navy SEAL. So,
and that's what I'm saying. One of the things I love about what's happening, you tell him that, Jet.
Stop it.
One of the things I love about what's happening in pop culture today is nerds are kind of cool, or at least they're not like outcasts. You know what I mean? Like the D&D kid can be cool and popular in high school.
Hell yeah.
He's not like locked away in some basement somewhere like they kind of were back in my day. I didn't know
I was all in.
I didn't know you had that kind of nerd side to you, and I like it, Nick.
I love it. I celebrate this.
I was all in. I haven't played in like
Nick, you have
God
to give
knows.
us like a segment worth of this sometime in the summer of like what hottest jumps off.
Can we play for a segment?
Yes, because I
Dungeons and Dragons.
Are there winners? Are there
for a
losers? I'm just trying to figure it out.
I mean, we don't have to play it to completion.
Well, yeah, I mean, you lose
just
if
to
you
get,
die.
Just to get an
Okay.
idea of it. I just want to play it like 15, 20 minutes to get an idea of it.
Dude, I haven't played in like 20, 25, 30
Can we
years.
put a baseball spin on it?
I don't mind spending 2 segments just playing a game of D&D.
Summertime
when there's nothing going on. We got 4
We gotta
hours
figure
to
it
fill,
out,
bro.
Do I need to go get me a D&D piece, a mascot, or a figurine or something?
Do I have to
so you
pick
have
a wizard I want to be? What do I got to do?
You have little pieces. You can purchase little pieces of character.
Yes.
That's you use it on the board if you'd like.
Can you get them custom made?
Yeah, like you
Okay.
can get your whole thing. See, I liked it because like it had your personality. Like you could create your character and like whatever your personality was. You could be like a super nice person who got taken advantage of like during fights and stuff,
Okay.
or you could
Me.
be like the badass guy who had a bad attitude. And it was just
One more question.
putting you in different situations.
One more quick question.
Sure.
Because this is the point where nerddom goes too far, and I think you should be an outcast. Have you ever LARPed? Were you ever a D&D LARPer? Live action role play, for those of you who don't know.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, what does that mean?
No,
People
I was
dress
going to
up.
ask him what it meant too.
People dress up as characters
No,
from Dungeons and Dragons
I have
and
not
other
done that.
nerdy things.
I have not gone to Comic-Con or
and
any
they
of
go
that
out to the
stuff.
park
No.
with like foam swords
No,
and fight
no,
each other. All right.
Vorpal swords. Get it
Vorpal
right.
swords. Sorry.
Vorpal swords were awesome. You cut
Foam-
off a limb.
Foam Vorpal swords.
Somebody messes with you, and you whoop, there goes a leg.
If you did LARP, it would be okay. Simone's here
But
to
you know, you
tell you it'd be okay.
you would find significant others, all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Did your character fall in love, and then you get all in sorts of trouble? Like
Is this like an expensive hobby here, Nick, or no?
it wasn't too.
Okay.
It wasn't too.
Foam Vorpal sword, by the way, forward for the Bruins.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Right shot. Right shot. Right wing.
He's a winger.
Yeah. He's on the right wing. Second line. Second line wing. All right. So Mike Pouncey, last time we saw him, he was chubby. Here he was talking about his extreme weight loss with the media.
You know, you get so used to being in a routine, we just challenge ourselves. It's like, all right, let's drop this weight and see how fast we can do it. And I've had him by my side throughout my career and even post-career. You know, he makes it easy. But the process for us was just stop eating like linemen. So we stopped eating all the carbs. We stopped eating 6-7 times a day, and we just And honestly, everyone's like, they ask us all the time, like, how do you guys eat? I say, like, rabbits. He say, what do you mean? I say, what's the difference? I say, well, back when we was playing, we ate like pigs. So, I mean, that's the only difference I can explain it.
How much you lost?
We lost 70 pounds. So now I weigh about 228 pounds. You know, I was playing, I was 303 pounds around that weight. But a lot of weight in a year.
Dude, the transformation of offensive linemen when
crazy.
they leave the game.
Joe Thomas is like he's like a bodybuilder now. Like the guy is ripped.
They look so different.
It's crazy.
They drop weight immediately, like insane weight, because they're told to, as Pouncey said, eat like a pig.
Who was the Eagles lineman? We were talking about his diet and just what it takes to keep all that weight on.
Was that Lane? Was that Lane Johnson?
It was Lane. It was insane. They have to consume crazy amounts of calories and then put it to good use, because you don't just want to be some big fat lumbering guy. Like, these guys are in shape, but also pushing like 325, 330. It's the scariest thing on any field of play anywhere, is when you see like how in shape and how quick these guys are at that size. And then, the transformation when they retire is insane with a lot of these guys.
I feel like we got to squeeze this in because it was overlooked. I thought this was pretty significant. Kelvin Beachum, offensive lineman for the Cardinals, was on Arizona Sports, our friends down in Phoenix. And here he was discussing Kyler Murray.
Grow up. Give me an example. Be a man and grow up. Like, it's not complicated. You got to be a leader of men, period.
And he's not right now.
He's maturing.
But he's not there yet.
He's not there.
It's not a completed process.
It's not a completed process.
Be a leader of men. He's got all the tools, you think?
He has all the tools, man. If some guy can throw off one leg, he can, throw it a mile. He can run faster than anybody else on the field.
He just lacks the leadership.
He's put together. I didn't say he lacks the leadership. I just think he needs to grow up a little bit. And I think if he has the ability and the willingness to grow up, he's going to be just fine. They paid him for a reason. They paid him because of his talent, and he has the ability to lead. It's just when you're in that position, we need you to lead more. Like, you're the face of the franchise. You got to lead more. You got to lead in every single capacity of leadership. And that's what they look for out of a franchise quarterback. They giving you, $500 million. Like,
I mean, I don't know, but to me, when you say that the franchise QB1 needs to grow up, that's a pretty significant line from somebody who is his current teammate who helps protect him on the offensive line. I mean, he's telling us that Kyler Murray is pretty much, immature and has issues. And there's been a lot of rumors and other stuff going on about him and how he handles his job. And I thought that was pretty significant to publicly come out and say that.
I'm going to bring this back around to the Kings real quick, if that makes any sense, Nick. We were talking about Mike Brown and his reaction to the win over the Knicks last week, and he came out and said they were terrible. Basically, they were lucky to win that game, and he came down hard on them. And you and I both said that's fine, as long as he said the same thing behind closed doors. And Malik Monk confirmed that Mike Brown had very much the same message, if not more strongly worded,
right
behind closed doors. It's even if what he's saying about Kyler Murray here is true, if he hadn't had that talk with Kyler Murray before he went and said this in the media and on a podcast, he's out of line, man. He's out of step, and he's not helping the situation at all. Have that talk with your QB and your teammate if you want to be a leader and you want to sort of help this guy along in becoming your franchise QB. I get that. Have that talk with them in private first before you go saying this to microphones, if you ever need to say it into a microphone at all. I just don't know how this is helping the situation unless he's already had these conversations with Kyler Murray in depth.
The fight from the Kings and the fight. Next on the top spot.
Cattles
and Ramie.
Robert.
This is how we do.
It's the Cattles and Ramie.
Top spot.
Fourth and final hour with you up until 6 o'clock tonight. Short show tomorrow. Well, Ramie, last night, that was a heavyweight fight. Heavyweight fight from the Kings against the best team in the NBA. The Kings absolutely 100% came ready to play. You really enjoyed my quality loss description of the game last night.
It's not a moral victory.
Not a moral victory.
We don't do moral victories on Cattles and Ramie. No, those are for losers. What that was last night, quality loss.
Is it better if I said educational loss?
I'm good with whatever, man. I'm just giving you a hard time. I get what you're getting at, which is the bottom line, which is
you learned a lot.
There are good things to take out of that loss last night. You would have liked to leave Golden One Center with the W, but there were plenty of good things to walk away with feeling good about last night.
I mean, let's look at it this way. Let's flip it on its side. If the Kings were beat by 15, 20 points last night, they weren't very competitive. What would the narrative be today? What would we be talking about? Oh, well, they played the best team in the NBA. It's getting late in the season. The Bucks ramped up the physicality. The Kings couldn't match it. They got blown out the gym at home. Not good, right?
Yeah.
But instead, we're talking about a team that came out the gates ready. They were physical. They showed urgency. They were really good on the glass. And they fought. They fought hard for 45 minutes. The final 3 minutes, which we'll get to eventually, not so great. First, here was Coach Brown on last night.
It was a good test for us, especially down the stretch in a one-possession game, because we made some mistakes that we probably won't make, that we hopefully won't make if we're ever fortunate enough to see them again. But great team. Our guys fought. They fought a little bit longer, and they got the win.
That you called it a heavyweight fight, Nick?
Yeah.
Not only did they show up ready for a heavyweight fight, they went to the middle of the ring. You're a UFC guy. You know when guys like just sprint to the middle of the ring and do like a flying knee or a Superman punch?
Do yourself a favor. I don't know if you've seen it, but look up Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren.
I've seen it. I know exactly the one you're talking about. That's what the Kings did last night. They sprinted to the middle of the ring with a flying knee for the best team in the NBA and delivered the first blow and put them on their heels, man. You had a 15-point lead in the second quarter against the Bucks, and we're doing it impressively. A number of things about the way that they were doing it to that point were eyebrow-raising about the Kings, and they showed you, man. They showed you, if you were looking at that as a measuring stick game, that they're not leaps and bounds away from being a championship contender, but also they're not backing down from any challenge, any big moment that might be too big or too bright for some teams the first time they get a taste of it. I feel like you had to be encouraged. You called it an educational loss. You had to be encouraged by what you saw last night and what it might mean for the postseason for this Kings team.
Yeah, I mean, Fox and Domas showed up big. Domas was absolutely freaking terrific against Brook Lopez and company. And, the physicality, they matched it, which was a question. This team, not always the most physical. We saw that on Thursday night against the Knicks on TNT, and the coach challenged them, and they've responded. Even though they lost last night, they responded with 2 games where they did not back down. They stayed strong on the glass. They actually out-rebounded the Bucks last night. The Bucks, the best rebounding team in the NBA. You had the playoff atmosphere. You had the playoff intensity. And I think it was great to see the Kings with the ability and capability of matching that and giving you what they gave you last night, again, for 45 minutes. We'll get to the final 3 in a little bit. Meanwhile, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports here on a Tuesday. We had the fight on the floor, the symbolic fight of basketball, and then we had an actual fight break out. Brook Lopez, Trey Lyles, of course. Giannis dribbles in front of Lyles. They get a little, tangled up. Giannis might have held the arm. Somebody sent me a tweet of the frozen pic of the position of Lyles' arm, and Giannis has it like clutched and wrapped up against his body. And there was the push from Lyles to Giannis, and then of course Brook Lopez came over once he saw that, face to face.
Did you see the hook? Because earlier we were both in the still shot that you got. Because earlier we were both saying we didn't see Giannis.
I do see the
hook Trey Lyles.
I do see the hook.
You did?
Yes.
So Giannis did start this thing.
So Lyles is going in, and he's hitting. Giannis is dribbling with his left hand. Lyles is hitting that left forearm with his right hand, and at the same time, Giannis with his right arm kind of
clamps down
on Lyles reaching in. That was thanks to Scott J. Hulsey on Twitter at Nick C Radio, who sent me the still shot of it. And so you had Giannis kind of, get tangled up with Lyles. There was the push, and then Lopez came over face to face. Lyles mushes him in the face and then reaches out and chokes him, a la Larry Bird against Dr. J a long, long time ago. And we have a kerfuffle breakout. Domas is in the middle of it. All hell's breaking loose. Here was Fox in the postgame.
I mean, Giannis can just dribble the ball out. That's all he had to do, and nothing would have happened. So,
okay, yeah, just dribble the ball out. Don't get in the way of Trey Lyles. Why are you intentionally walking in front of Lyles? And Lyles, he agreed with his teammate.
I think Fox said it pretty well. Could have been avoided if he just dribbled it out. If you watch it, I was just walking back, my head down. He crossed in front of me, reached from behind, kind of clamped down on my arm, so I pushed to get my arm off. He sold it a little bit. It was nothing personal, but, a bigger guy walks down on me. I'm not really one for talking. I think, showing a lot, it takes a lot for me to get out of character. And, I'm just not gonna go for that. So
I still didn't see anything to be offended by, man. I really didn't. I don't know. I've never heard of this. I've never heard in the NBA of guys crossing other guys' paths to be disrespectful. I've heard of the stepping over a guy after you hit a shot and he ends up on the ground. I've heard of that. I know that's Nick, I've been watching the NBA my whole life. I've never heard of this unwritten rule, if you will, that while dribbling it out, you are not to cross an opponent's path. Everything they said after the game, heck, everything they did after the skirmish broke out. You have your brother's back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
No matter what my brother did growing up, if he was in the scrum and he needed help, whether he was in the right or the wrong or whatever, I was going to have his back. And there was no backing down from that. Everything they said after the game, everything they did after things first broke out, I got no problem with it. And even the message being sent of, hey, we're not going to be punked. Okay, good thing for the NBA to know, I guess, before the playoffs start. I really didn't see anything offensive or for Trey Lyles or the Kings to be upset with to spark that whole thing to begin with. I don't know.
I have an evolving opinion on this, going back to what we talked about earlier. And the evolving opinion is, with that screenshot and Giannis clamping down on Lyles' arm, I don't have as much of an issue with the Lyles slight push. It wasn't really an egregious push. It was just like, get off me, So I don't have that much of an issue with that, because Lyles could say, hey, look, man, I was just trying to follow you, steal the ball from you because you were trying to show me up. And then you clamped my arm, and yeah, I physically reacted. As far as the Lopez part of this thing and Lyles and the mush of the face and the choking and the fight that broke out, I still think that part was an overreaction. Like, you made your point, you pushed Giannis, you got in the face of Brook Lopez, you stood up. I keep seeing people like, oh yeah, but it's been 16 years and we've been called soft and look, you can stand up. Lyles, by pushing Giannis and getting into the face of Brook Lopez, point taken. That's enough. We're standing in front of you. We're not going to take this. I'm going to go forehead to forehead. You don't have to mush them. You don't have to go choke them. And, I thought that opens up the door for a suspension of Lyles, which I don't think you need at this point. Keegan Murray's struggling a little bit. Lyles has been great. You need all the help you can to get off the bench and win some games here late in the season as you march towards the postseason. And on top of that, Ramie, Domas gets in the middle of it. I think you're fortunate nobody gets hurt. And people might say, yeah, but no one got hurt, so who cares? Domas should not have been put in that position to defend his teammate, to try to separate guys in the middle of a pack. Your point was made. Trey made his point. He pushed Giannis. I'm not having that. He got in the face of Brook Lopez. At that point, look, man, enough is enough. It wasn't like somebody clotheslined him. It wasn't like somebody drop kicked somebody. It wasn't an ugly foul or dirty foul or hard foul. Like, come on. I mean, guys get wrapped up on rebounds all the time. Dudes grab other dudes' arms during rebounds all the time. It's not like Giannis went for a headlock. Like, I thought it was an overreaction from Lyles. So, that's how I feel. My opinion. You agree or disagree with that? Let us know. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. You can also check us out on YouTube, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Don't forget the website, sactownsports.com. Get to your reaction. We also will discuss Kevin Huerter, the late game execution, and more in 90 seconds.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports. It's Chris and Company with Chris Watkins.
We are we're just letting Domantas Sabonis' performances just go by the wayside right now. Over his last 14 games, he's averaging 20.3 points per game, 11.9 rebounds, 7.1 assists on 62% from the field. That's absurd. 20, 12, and 7. Nobody else in this league is putting up numbers like that.
Chris and Company with Chris Watkins, weekdays from 10 to 11.
On Sactown Sports.
What's for dinner? Burgers?
After last week, no thanks.
Cattles and Ramie.
Cattles and Ramie. Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us as always, Cattles and Ramie. Want to remind you, Cosi Medical Clinic dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Little 49ers note here. Samson Ebukam, he gone. Signed a 3-year, $27 million max deal with the Indianapolis Colts. Includes over $11 million in the first year. So Ebukam getting the bag from Indy. Congratulations to him. And there's been a lot of movement. Still a lot of movement going on. The Niners, a lot of movement within the NFL. Javier Flores, youtube.com. Fox statement is true. If Giannis just dribbled out, nothing would have happened.
But Javier, what I'm saying is I think the way I saw it, that's all he was doing. Like, he wasn't standing in one spot. Nick, you said it earlier. It's not uncommon practice for a guy to walk towards his bench as he's dribbling out the clock and towards the tunnel to just get to the locker room a few seconds quicker or whatever it is. Like, he's not the first guy to do that. And
look, my beef is not the idea that Giannis didn't do anything. People keep saying that. Like, stop moving the goalpost in my argument. Like, I understand Giannis got in the way of Trey Lyles, and it certainly looks like he did it on purpose when you look at it from an angle. Looks like he was, as one person put it, hunting Lyles down and dribbled in front of him. My point from last night to right now is that Lyles overreacted. Now, I don't have much of an issue, again, with the push after seeing the kind of the clamp by Giannis, and Lyles is like, get off me. I understand that part of it more. But the idea of Giannis dribbling in front of you in the final 15 seconds of a game that is over for all intents and purposes leads to what we saw it lead to is hilarious to me. Like that is an overreaction.
Has a fight ever broken out over this in the NBA?
Not to my recollection.
I've never seen it.
Like, I'm not telling you Giannis is innocent. I'm not telling you that Lyles shouldn't have gotten in somebody's face and said, look, we're not down for that. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is it got to the point where guys were put in jeopardy. And now you put yourself in jeopardy with a suspension over that. I mean, it's not like Giannis clotheslined De'Aaron Fox when he's going up for a layup. It's not like he kicked somebody in the groin.
If he had 48 and he's making his way to the basket to get that 50 piece, somebody should put him on his ass. You know what I mean? He was dribbling the clock out. I didn't see anything, man. And it, like I said, I've never seen a fight break out over this. And if there is no fight over this yesterday, because Nick, you know, there's always somebody in the listening audience in the machismo, testosterone-filled sports world that it is. There's always somebody who's looking for a reason to fight in our listener base or in the fan base. I promise you, though, despite that being the case, nobody would have called us up today or tweeted us or commented on the YouTube page. I can't believe they let Giannis do that. They got punked. That was disrespectful. Nobody would have even noticed Giannis did that if the Kings don't react to it, because that probably happens all the time and nobody says a word.
I didn't think it was that big of a deal. That's my opinion. Just didn't think it was that big of a deal. I did not think that what ended up happening should have happened off of.
I'm glad they had their guys back, though.
That situation. Yeah, like look,
you should.
Once the fight breaks out, guys getting involved, I don't have an issue with. Now, if I was Coach Brown, I might say, hey, Domas, I understand you're trying to fight for your guys, but we need you, man. You might not want to dive into the middle of this kerfuffle and be at an odd angle against the scorer's table where you got a broken thumb. Might not be the best idea. But look, that is just natural, organic reaction. And your guys are in a fight, and you're trying to either be a peacemaker or protect your guy. I don't have an issue with it.
I wouldn't be surprised if back in the locker room there weren't some guys going, Trey, what was that? What was that even about? You know what I mean? I've had those, late nights out, Nick, and skirmishes happen, and you leave the bar and you go, what was that even like? You know what I mean? Like, I bet if you caught them in an honest moment, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know what Trey was so upset about, but I'm going to have my guys back.
And by the way,
know what I mean?
By the way, Sacramento V, it was between Lyles and Giannis. It was done. Giannis didn't respond. Lopez should have let it go.
No,
I mean, let's play the game again. Okay. What if the opposite happened with the Kings?
You'd expect.
I guarantee you people would be like, no big deal. Fox was dribbling out the clock. Giannis overreacted. He reached in. That's what people would be saying. I'm just telling you, objective point of view here, that I thought it was an overreaction. I'm not telling you it's the end of the world, people. I'm saying it was an overreaction by Trey Lyles, which led to things that could have been very detrimental to this basketball team making a run. That's all I'm telling you. You can agree or disagree. It's fine. It's opinions. Everybody's got them. Like buttholes. It's fine. Not a big deal. But like, it's just, I'm sorry. If Fox got pushed, I can guarantee you, every single Kings fan, to a person who's sitting there proud as a peacock today, and Lyles especially going, yeah, show the fight. Now you think if Fox was pushed, you'd be perfectly fine and say, oh, they should just let it be. No, not at all. If the shoe was on the other foot and Domas stepped in, you'd be like, that's right. That's my guy, Domas.
Got to step up. Got to stand up for your guy.
So be honest with yourself, okay? Be honest with yourself. That's all I'm asking.
It's hard for people sometimes.
I mean, I get like the whole don't be a doormat. And
Sure.
I agree, don't be a doormat. Just think it was an overreaction.
I don't think you're being a doormat if nobody says a thing about that last night.
And Javier is being honest with us. He said, hell yeah, I'd be yelling at the top of the tower.
Yeah.
So that's, that's how this works. By the way, we haven't talked about Kevin Huerter. He was unbelievable in the fourth quarter. I mean, my freaking goodness. Man, oh man, 17 points, 6 of 8 from the field, 5 of 6 from 3. The Domas DHO was unstoppable. The Bucks had no answer for that. Somehow, with Huerter scoring 17 points and all the good stuff that happened, you still were a -6 in the fourth quarter, which is because your defense gave up 43 points. And I remind people, I said this earlier, Giannis only had 6 of the 43 points in that fourth quarter. That was Lopez and Middleton killing you. Meanwhile, Ramie, another thing that happened in this game, last 3 minutes, when you play against a championship contender, a former NBA champion like the Bucks, it's all about execution in the final 2-3 minutes. I remember I picked the Warriors last year to win the finals because I said the Celtics had trouble with execution. Even though they were winning in the playoffs, they had a lot more trouble at the end of games executing their offense. And I believe the Warriors would execute at a higher level, and that is precisely what ended up happening. That's what we saw last night. There was, a turnover. There was a miscommunication, a breakdown on a 3 defensively. There were all these little things over about a minute and a half that allowed the Bucks to just take that game from the Kings. That's a learning experience, executing when you absolutely need to against the better teams in the league.
And I think that shows you in a weird way how close they are to getting to that level, Nick. You know what I mean? You don't have a Giannis. Not many teams do. You know what I mean? There are one or two other teams in the league that can point to a guy and expect him to do as much for him as Giannis does for the Bucks. But beyond that, it's the little stuff, man. It's these little things that separate the Kings from the best teams in the league, like the Bucks or even like the Celtics. Those are the things that make you championship caliber. Like they've made a huge leap, many steps taken in the right direction. There's just a few more and like a few more little details and things to shore up in terms of both the roster and knowing how to close out those games and do those little things in those big moments that turn L's into W's when you're going against the toughest competition you're going to see all year.
This is the worst text that's ever been sent, and they probably should never send a text again.
Wow. Strong words.
Cattles is a McGregor fan. First of all, I'm not. I used to be until we found out that he was a giant tool bag away from the octagon. Cattles is a McGregor fan, but sounds like a social worker regarding Lyles. So we're gonna compare mixed martial arts, where guys knock each other out, to the NBA. That's what we're doing. Come on now. Come on. Stop. James from Carmichael says Lyles didn't have a great game. He thought that was eating at him, so he was a little perturbed.
There's probably some of that, a little frustration, and you knew the game was out of your hands and you weren't going to win it. Maybe a little bit of that frustration getting the better of him.
Text line, Ramie, a.k.a. Homer Simpson for the Bucks. See what they did there? Take that.
If you're watching on YouTube, that's King's hat.
Take that.
Just pointing that out. Just letting you all know.
And I do think we should point out the great work that social workers do.
Sure.
Fantastic job they do.
Absolutely. We need more of them.
Awful job. If you want to try to keep your head straight.
Exactly.
So
we need more social workers.
You're going to call me a social worker.
That's a compliment.
That's a compliment.
That's a compliment
Thank
you just gave Nick Cattles.
I appreciate that. Every time I listen to Cattles, I want to fire the coach and trade everyone. I feel like, see, this is when the whole Ramie, what is it you call me? The
Grinch.
The Grinch.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens, Ramie. This is what I got to live with. Even though during today's show I said that the Kings fought toe-to-toe, it was a great game, I waxed poetic about Domas, just because I thought Trey Lyles overreacted.
You're a mean one.
Yep.
There you go.
Grinch.
Burn it all down. Burn it all down to the ground.
I don't know why you hate the Kings.
No, it's so obvious.
I think this whole season has been a waste of time.
I mean, I picked up my life and moved 3,000 miles away from the East Coast so I can embrace Sacramento and this basketball team. But somehow,
wow,
hate it all. Call back next.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
The only place you'll find Kevin Herter is Sactown Sports.
Herter's open, steps into 3. He's got
Ramie.
All right, so we invited our friend Jeff Howe from The Athletic back onto the show today. He was on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. And we asked Jeff about the Raiders, signing Jimmy G, trading Darren Waller, replacing him with Jacoby Myers, and kind of Jeff's thoughts about all the activity from the Raiders and where they sit right now. Here was Jeff.
You can make the obvious correlation to Garoppolo and McDaniels and their history together. I mean, the fit, the understanding of the offense, the fact that Garoppolo should be able to come in right away and help lead that offense and kind of, do it without as much resistance because he understands where McDaniels is coming from. He understands the concepts of this offense. Similarly with Jacoby Myers, with the way the Raiders are looking at it is you've got Jacoby Myers who is 26 years old. He's on an ascending arc in his career. He navigates a similar area of the field. Granted, he does it a little differently than Darren Waller because they play a different position. But then you've got Darren Waller, who's sort of probably on the downside of his career, unless he all of a sudden revitalizes himself and can kind of shake the injuries that have cost him 14 games in the last 2 years. And then you throw in the fact that Waller, was probably only guaranteed one more year in Vegas.
That is what I've been saying all along, Nick. I don't know how they expect to be a whole lot better making the changes that they've made. I don't know how you get better trading a guy like Darren Waller. You know what I mean? If Josh McDaniels can't make Darren Waller work and fit in his system, change your system. You know what I mean? Cater when you have talent that is dynamic at multiple positions, cater and alter your offense to that talent. Don't swap out Darren Waller for Jacoby Myers. Don't swap out Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo because you're more comfortable with them and you think they're a better fit in your system. Take the better players and build your system around them. This makes no sense to me. What I've seen the Raiders doing since benching Derek Carr, what they've been doing does not make sense to me at all whatsoever.
It's certainly been an interesting start. You let Derek Carr walk, and as we talked about, when that decision was made, you have to really make sure that you get a no-doubt upgrade over Carr if you make that choice. And I think a lot of people would have a tough time debating Jimmy G is a better quarterback.
He's not.
Than Carr is. All right, Lamar Jackson, he tweeted out earlier today, 3 years, $133 million. Now, whether or not that was what he's telling us he was guaranteed from the Ravens on their latest offer, or I don't know if it was the full deal in itself. But here was Jeff Howe talking about the contract offer for Lamar and guarantees and everything that's happening with that situation in Baltimore.
So it's hard to say fair because this is such a polarizing topic. And I tried to get clarity on what exactly that meant. Like everything with this storyline over the last 2 years, there's not a whole lot of clarity as to what this actually means. But let's work under the premise that it was 3 and 133, or I'm sorry, whatever those numbers were. And you look at the franchise year this year, the franchise year next year, and, let's say it was something to do with the offer last year, including the 50-year option. Then you put all those numbers together, and, that gets you to a little bit. I think the 133 would be a little bit more than back-to-back franchises plus the 50-year option. Now, if it's the offer that is most recently been on the table, then you kind of got to question what's going on here.
And I do question what's going on here. I really got to wonder why the Ravens let it get to this point. It takes two to tango. I'm not saying Lamar has been perfect or flawless in these negotiations, but ultimately the Ravens have an MVP caliber quarterback, a guy who's won, I think, the fourth most games in the NFL since coming into this league among quarterbacks, and you're messing around with him like this. It's not a good look, man. It's not a good look, and there are people around that Ravens locker room and around the league that are going, you're doing this to Lamar Jackson? What are you going to do to me when it comes time for me to negotiate or get rewarded for what I've done for this organization or in this league? I I don't think this is very good at all for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson's going to be fine. Wherever he lands, he's a great football player, and he's going to make a lot of money. The Ravens have a lot more to lose here, and the longer this thing drags out, the uglier it gets, and the less likely it is that they can find some common ground here.
I think they're close. It seems to be a little bit, less than what Deshaun Watson got from Cleveland in the first 3 years. I think it's $5 million less than what Watson got. So could you up it? I'm sure you could up it. I just don't know where they're at with their conversation. Like, is Lamar pretty much you're dead to me unless you show up with 150, 175 million guaranteed or 200 million guaranteed? I don't know. Is Deshaun Watson is Lamar Jackson walking into this saying, I want Deshaun Watson's guarantee or more, and he's not getting it? So until he gets that, because here's the thing. Let's say the Ravens went up to Lamar and said, we're going to give you $200 million guaranteed, but the contract's going to be 6 years. Is that really better? Like, if you're going to get 3 years guaranteed of $133 million, then you go back into free agency after that. Like, I just don't think there's a huge gap between these two sides, which begs the question of, is it just so personal now? Or
for both sides,
or it's the agent thing that could play a role. Like, I've talked about this, and I know part of the tweet that Lamar sent out with the 3 years, 133, talked about the agent and, he needs an agent though. Look, I don't think this is a disrespectful offer. Let's put it that way from the Ravens. I don't think they're disrespecting Lamar Jackson with the offer that's on the table if it's 3 years for 133 and it's all guaranteed. I don't think that's a disrespectful offer. It's more money he'd make, as Jeff said, with the 5th-year option and the back-to-back franchise tag. So it's not disrespectful.
Disrespect, but I don't disrespect me.
If you had an agent who is experienced in this kind of stuff to go back and forth with, maybe that agent would be better at getting you closer.
It's not as personal.
Right.
When you have an agent as sort of the buffer in between.
Right.
You know what I mean? I get that side of it. But like I said, to me, Lamar doesn't have a ton to lose here. Somebody's going to pay him, and he's going to be very good in the NFL for years to come. Quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, they don't come along all that often for the Ravens or anybody else. You're playing with fire, upsetting that guy and possibly chasing him away.
He's Ramie. I'm Cattles. Don't forget SactownSports.com. Don't forget the Sactown Sports 1140 app as well. As always, all guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. We wrap it up coming up next.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by R.C. Willey Home Furnishings.
I'm Mark Finan in the KC.
All right. Today's an LL Cool J day.
Apparently.
Is it LL's, is it LL's
We
birthday
put that on
today?
special for you.
It is LL Cool J birthday.
It is?
I don't know. Just making that up.
National LL Cool J Day.
Settle down, Simone.
Hey.
Take a deep breath behind the glass, will you? Oh, God. My goodness. All right, so a couple things here before we bid you adieu. Let's start with the Darren Waller trade. So Darren Waller to the Giants, Ramie, for a 3rd-round pick. Your thoughts?
That seems like a very cheap price to pay for a guy who's been at, when healthy and right and has a good quarterback. One of the best tight ends in this league, man. A guy who can score from almost anywhere on the football field or flip a field with one big play. Those guys at tight end, man, they're valuable and not easy to come by. For the life of me, and we touched a little bit on this last segment when playing back some of Jeff Howe's comments.
Yeah.
Cannot understand how you're better for not having Darren Waller for a 3rd-round pick on your roster. I can't wrap my head around this one. It seems like an absolute steal for the Giants.
I love this trade.
Right?
I love this trade for the Raiders.
Really?
I love it.
Why?
Waller's 30 years old. I think he's around halfway to 31. He's started 17 games the last 2 years. He's been a walking injury. Can he turn it around? Certainly. But this is a guy who has not been the same productive tight end that you can depend on week in and week out that he was 3 years ago. And not a lot of NFL players become more dependable and more healthy as they hit their 30s. I also think if you're the Raiders, free agency is very deep at tight end. Now, I'm not telling you you're going to get a Darren Waller, but you might get a Hayden Hurst for half the price or less. And the draft class at tight end is the deepest it's been in a long, long time. Daniel Jeremiah, who I respect tremendously of the NFL Network, he has gone on record and said that, it's his evaluation that double-digit tight ends in this draft will be starters for years in the NFL. It is a very deep tight end draft. So I think it makes sense for the Raiders. He also doesn't run block, and I think Josh McDaniels and Ziegler kind of want to run that offense downhill the way they ran offense in New England with Josh as the OC. And look, if you're the Giants, you're hoping for a rebirth. You're hoping for the best. I don't know how Raiders players felt. I know Josh Jacobs tweeted out his feelings. He wasn't happy. I know some other Raiders tweeted out they weren't happy. So that's the one thing I would say about this deal for the Raiders. How does this impact the locker room? Is this going to cause some issues? I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. But we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of the Raiders, Devontae Adams, after the Jimmy G news, posted on his Instagram, if we haven't talked in the last 3 weeks, don't hit me up about this bleep. Thanks. Now, JJ had a very interesting theory on this. JJ said, JJ said that he thought that this could be Adams kind of referencing the fact that he wanted a seat at the table when figuring out quarterback. And maybe this was a message to the team, to the front office.
Hey, if you're calling me to ask me how I feel about the Jimmy G signing, maybe you should have talked to me in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
When I wanted to have some say about who the quarterback was. I didn't think about it. That's a great catch by JJ. And maybe that's not what he means at all. Maybe he's not even talking about football. We don't even know in this age of social media what cryptic tweets are actually about the thing that we think they're about, and how many of them have nothing to do with that. How many of them are just to throw us off the trail and just to mess with us. Guys do that. But he did come out and say, I want to have some say in who my next quarterback is going to be after making the commitment to the Raiders last year. I'd like a little bit of that reciprocated and have this be a relationship where we communicate and all have some input. And if he didn't at all, this could be a real problem, man. This could be a real problem. He wouldn't be the first wide receiver to try and force his way out of a situation he wasn't pleased with.
Talking about a real problem, the Jets, Cattles, and Ramie Sactown Sports could have a real problem on their hands if Aaron Rodgers decides not to join them. Rodgers has all the leverage, and he's using all the leverage Diana Rossini tweeted out that Rodgers provided the Jets with a wish list of free agents he would like them to target and acquire. It includes Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, and ... OBJ. So not only is Aaron Rodgers holding the Jets offseason hostage right now, he's also giving them his wish list. Go get these guys or I'm not going to be happy. You better go get them for me.
It's hilarious.
And I tweeted out the gif of the look at me, I'm the captain now. Like that is Rodgers to Joe Douglas, the Jets GM. He is drawing the line and saying, if you don't go out and get these guys. And by the way, the Jets, they've agreed to a deal 4 years, $44 million with Lazard. So one down. Is Randall Cobb next? Is Mercedes Lewis next?
Dude, Mercedes Lewis is our age.
Yeah,
and this guy's still getting contracts thanks to Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, it's truly a special relationship, apparently. And look, man, Rodgers is supposed to be going on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow. He's just so insufferable. And the fact that he is, look, you had your time to make your decision. And now you're holding two franchises hostage because you just want to.
Why do I love this so much? Everybody finds him to be
he's insufferable, man.
And they're annoyed, they're bothered, they're angry.
He's so insufferable.
I'm just sitting back and enjoying the ride, man.
It's every offseason with this guy now. Every offseason.
To me, the more chaotic, the better. Quite frankly.
And by the way, I saw this on Twitter today. Somebody tweeted at me, and I saw another tweet from a blue check mark, if that means anything anymore, which it doesn't. But it is delicious that Aaron Rodgers spent the last couple of years crying and complaining about how this Packers team was built around him. And so he goes to the Jets and gives them a wish list of guys that have been around him in Green Bay the last couple of years. Like, he's been crying and complaining that he hasn't had enough. So his grand plan is to walk into New York with some of the guys, the holdovers from Green Bay. And by the way, like, is anybody wowed by the list of names? Like Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, and Mercedes Lewis?
No. I saw, yeah.
Like, you're doing favors for him. That's not going to necessarily make your team better. Like, you're literally doing favors in the hopes of this guy saying, yes, I'll marry you. And you don't even know how long you don't even know how he's going to play. I would imagine he'll play fine, but you don't know that. He's 39 now, right? And he had a somewhat down year a season ago. He's waffling whether or not he wants to come back. Like, all the eggs are in the Aaron Rodgers basket for the Jets. And if they either swing and miss on him and he stays in Green Bay, retires, or goes somewhere else out of nowhere, or he actually plays and he's not good, this is going to ruin their franchise for a couple of years.
Which would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be fun to watch?
I'm a Patriots fan. It'd be great.
Again, icing on the cake for you. But just for me, as a fan of sports and an agent of chaos, this is great. I don't know what everybody's so upset about. He's going to go on Pat McAfee show tomorrow and say absolutely nothing. Mark my words.
He's going to promote something.
McAfee's hyping this whole thing up, and Rodgers is going to let him hype this whole thing up to get his boy the clicks and the views and the likes that we're all after in this world. And then he's going to go on there and he's going to talk about, I don't know, ayahuasca or meditation or darkness retreats or psychedelics or anything but football. I promise you, he will not be announcing anything of substance tomorrow on the Pat McAfee show. And this goes on for another day. And it's another day of giving us something to watch, to talk about, to follow. It's not our teams that he's leaving in a lurch or putting behind the 8 ball. Like, whatever happens for me is great from this point on. It's terrific, especially if he's leaving the NFC North and not beating up on my Bears anymore. But this is fantastic. Keep it going, man. Keep it going, A-Rod. Love it. They're taking it into next offseason.
There's no doubt Aaron Rodgers fully understands the importance of the quarterback position in the NFL.
And he loves the attention. Don't let him fool you. He loves this attention.
And they're also talking about it's about financial compensation as well. So is he going to get more money out of this? He could even get more money out of this. My goodness. Thanks to JJ and Simone. Great job as always. Ramie, good stuff. Back tomorrow for a 90-minute show before I blast off to Vegas for the weekend.
Hey, look at you.
So we'll try to have a good one. I'll try to be focused for you tomorrow, Ramie.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I actually still got to do on the show on Thursday. So
That's when I'm really worried about your focus.
when I'm in Vegas,
Yeah.
doing the show,
Yes.
I'd be nervous too. Till tomorrow, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports.
Now hurry, go on to the altar. I know you ain't but remember what I taught you. Keep